Take three.
Take three. Welcome to RiceNoodleCinema. I'm your host, Andrew, and today I've got with me...
My name is Cory.
And my name's Antonio. I don't have anything to plug, so...
Yes, we have nothing to plug. We are nothing right now. I was thinking...
Pretty low rep, if you know what I mean.
Pretty low rep.
Yeah.
Zero listeners. Not even published. I was thinking last night, it's kind of funny that, there's no pressure on this. No one's going to listen to this yet. But in the small chance that we do get a following, people will come back and listen to the first episode, because that's what I do. I'll listen to the most recent episode, then I'll start going back a few weeks, and then I'm like, okay, well, I've listened to the past 2 months of this podcast. I'm just going to catch up and start at the beginning and then go to where I started. So yeah, listening to the first podcast is always funny.
Hey man, humble beginnings, you got to start somewhere. So if we just sound like absolute donkeys for an hour and a half or however long this runs, at least it'll be funny, It's all good.
Right. Yeah.
Dude, I have some notes. So today we're discussing, as you can see in the title, the classic Predator film with Arnold, and then also the new Hulu adventure called Prey. So
Yeah.
Who wants to start us off with some discussion? I guess we'll start with Predator, because I feel like we'll have less to say. We're gonna have a lot.
I have a lot to say about Predator.
We'll have a good amount to say, but compared to Prey, I have a lot to say.
True.
I think when I was going into Prey 2, I was doing a lot of comparison.
Exactly.
Kind of trying to see where
thing.
they're paying off of.
Yeah, we should definitely start with Predator.
Yeah, 100%. I just gotta say, going into the film, my expectation was very generic 80s film. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I like a lot of the action-oriented 80s films. I mean, those are some of the best films ever made. However, I think I got a different experience than what I was expecting, to be completely honest with you. I was actually genuinely surprised with, the quality of the writing. Or, well, not to say that the writing was anything fantastic, but I was surprised to see that there was, actual things that I wasn't just expecting in the film. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything towards that. Or
I wanted to, as soon as you started, I was like, I agree completely. That's the exact same experience I had. I never watched it. I think Cory, you probably watched it as a you said. As a kid,
I grew
right?
up a huge Predator fan actually. So this was I haven't watched this movie in probably a decade, man, and it was pretty cool to get to go back and see it again. This thing, it really came out right in the height of the 80s action heroes with just big bulging muscles and baby oil everywhere. And it's just testosterone fueled and made just massive guns, and it's a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun to rewatch and go back and see it all and kind of feel those emotions again and be like, oh dude, this guy's awesome. It's just going in there with a Bowie knife and an M16 or a minigun in some guy's case, there's that.
Yeah. Dude, it was just pretty fucking awesome. I had the same experience as you, Antonio. I just was expecting, this is gonna be a cheesy, action movie, but it's a cult classic because the creature is a unique design. There's a lot of quotable dialogue in there, but I was like, no, this is actually very well put together. There's a lot of good vibes, the music in the beginning with the helicopter scene, and I like how they let that play out. I was thinking in a modern movie or a remake of the franchise, a sequel, they would just skip over that, but they took their time to try to give character to this whole cast, with their little interactions between each other, spitting the dip on the guy's shoes, making the guy trying to make the other guy laugh with the fucking pussy jokes killed me. He's just
the house pussy, man.
Yeah, man.
Her pussy is big as a house. And then it was great callback later when he does a different pussy joke and to a different guy, and he actually laughs.
Yeah, 100%.
Actually, my first note comes out of the intro, and it's the bro shake, man. Dude, that is as baby oil and muscles it gets, man. That right there,
absolutely
the mid-air arm wrestle, fantastic.
I think I texted Antonio while I was watching it a little bit, and that was the first thing I sent. I was like, wow, I don't know what I was expecting, because I knew it was this movie, but I just was caught off guard. I was like, wow, that was right off the bat. I guess it would make sense to be in the intro. It's not going to be at the end, but I was like, 100%. Damn, that was satisfying. And it was different too, because I was like, none of the rest of the movie is like that.
Oh, no.
So I was like, oh, okay, this is just like reaffirming the schlockiness of the movie. But then it kind of just like had its moment and then left.
I was just surprised with how much it takes its time to like set up a subtle narrative. I like looking back on it, especially, but even just watching it through the first time, like I was just genuinely surprised because I don't think there's ever a low point or not a purpose to this film. The film it doesn't spend a lot of time doing excess things that don't really matter to the plot. I feel like everything in the movie matters to the plot, matters to the characters, and matters what's going on in the film at any given time. Like right off the rip, you were talking about the helicopter scene. It's such a good way to introduce all of the personalities of the characters without giving them deep background stories or exposition dumping.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's exactly what it needs to be. And then later on in the film, when they're working as a team and doing all the things that they do later on in the jungle, it's a great establishment of both trust for the team and kind of their feelings towards each other, obviously. And then also, I think it's just a key factor into what the plot ends up devolving into or evolving into.
Yeah, I do a lot of character building too, with like what the actual characters are carrying, like equipment wise, because you have like Arnold, who's just big. He's got like an M16 with a grenade launcher on it.
Right.
Yeah. He's not even wearing like a plate carrier or any kind of like armor.
I have
Dude's just got bulletproof skin.
Yeah.
But then there's like the two skinnier guys, like the guy with the glass. I can't remember the names to save my life, but they were like
the names.
They were doing MP5 Jungle Warfare, which is a little interesting to me, for choices. But hey, man, if it's what they are doing, running around, they got it. And you have dudes with the M60 and like the minigun, which is it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely put a lot into like what they're doing out there, because like like the Native American guy at the end, who's like just ready to go like in hands, and he's got the big Bowie knife, not butcher knife. But yeah, it's pretty interesting what they do with setting up characters as well as subplots going into it. Like they make it pretty apparent that they're not there to like just be like some raiding force. Like they're doing rescue missions, and they just want to get out of there.
Right.
Like they have no interest in actually doing anything extra. And that, like you said, like it really feeds into there's no bloating in the movie. It really is.
It's very clean.
They have it's just one overarching story. There's not like multiple subplots branching off, which kind of plays into it. It's not a very long movie, so it doesn't have a lot of time to just sit there and kill.
Isn't it longer than Prey? It's like almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
It is a decent sized movie for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely not like the Batman that's like 4 hours long and has 10 million different things going on,
Yeah.
But I think it stays pretty focused overall for the whole time.
Yeah, it's
that's pretty cool. It's something you don't get these days.
Well-oiled clock. Yeah, no, I was thinking that we'll get into it later, obviously, but when I was watching Prey, I was like, why is this like a week-long adventure? Like this, she keeps going back to the village and like resting up and recuperating. Like she like makes all these plans like over days and nights instead of just like on the spot. Because like I don't know, the first Predator movie is like 2 days.
I think
it's like a day, a night, and then the next day and night.
And the next night, it's like 2 days. But yeah, when you were talking about the outfits of the different soldiers, I was thinking. I had it written down for a little bit later when I noticed. It took me a second to notice, but Arnold's just wearing a straight up like civilian camo t-shirt, like something he'd buy from fucking Hot Topic with the sleeves cut off. I was like, yeah, they didn't have camo t-shirts like that. Like the army undershirts aren't fucking camo. They're just one solid color. Yeah, standard issue.
Yeah.
Dude, Jesse
they're
Ventura.
Green Berets. They don't have to do anything extra, man.
Exactly. Let's get the beret. That's the only standard they have to abide by is wear the beret, and then everything else they can customize. I was gonna say, Jesse Ventura really doesn't stand out as like a wrestler actor, because like that happens in Hollywood. Like The Rock, obviously, random just like singers will just start acting, and it's very apparent that they're not actors, and they usually find their niche because they're already super famous. Studios want to hire them and get them into these productions, but like Jesse Ventura really didn't stand out. Like he stood out as a good character, but he didn't stand out in a bad way. I don't know if you guys agree, because I was just like, damn, like whenever they take these celebrities, whether a stand-up comedian or a wrestler, and they kind of implement them in the movies, it's just like so corny. And I think it's because Hollywood is afraid to like get them to act. I guess they're just like, oh, let's get this guy for name recognition, and that's it. We won't try to like incorporate him into the movie. He's just there. He's playing himself. I don't know a lot about Jesse Ventura because I didn't grow up watching WWF or E, but yeah, he was just like a good. He just played his role pretty perfectly. Love seeing him with that fucking minigun.
Yeah, I think like, he kind of blends in, honestly, until you just said something. I had no idea he was a wrestler.
I didn't even know.
Like,
yeah, no, he's
no
like the equivalent of The Rock back in the 80s.
Yeah, because I mean now you have like John Cena.
John Cena was the other name that was escaping me.
Yeah, like they're pretty, like you just put them on a screen so everyone knows who they are. Like it doesn't really matter how they act. Which I mean, like they're not horrible. I mean, The Rock plays Dwayne The Rock Johnson in every film. But
yeah, and I don't think that's his fault.
Same actor.
I want to see him get pushed. I mean, I haven't seen Black Adam. Heard it was okay. But yeah, he's always like asked to play The Rock, so it's not really his fault. The writing never tries to get him to do anything different. Same thing with like Kevin Hart.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of actors in Hollywood that are just they are a singular character that are cast for a very particular reason, or when they're writing the character in the script, they have that actor in their mind. So there are definitely times when one in particular is Will Smith. I would love to see Will Smith in a film where he is just the complete opposite of whatever he plays in every single film of his.
Yeah.
Just because I think Will Smith could genuinely be a good actor.
Yeah, I mean you're kind of what you're hitting on the head is Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean he's playing his character that he played throughout the 80s, 90s, and 2000s pretty much the same, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. But it works. And
it does work. It works really well.
And he was a bodybuilder. Speaking of like taking non-actors and turning them into movie stars.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if we're going completely in order of like what happens in the plot, but I do want to mention that I know that part of this film's like one of the biggest criticisms for it is, oh, you know, why didn't they just drop their guns and then they would have been safe? Like Arnold pretty much finds out kind of early on, or not really early on,
too early.
but
like in the middle, before most people died. Before like
before most of the people die, because they're running from the predator, and the girl goes to pick up the gun. And he's like, well, that gun didn't really save anybody, you know, basically implying that he knew that the predator wasn't going after people who weren't dangerous. And I think that it's not necessarily the case that the predator's just attacking them because they're carrying firearms.
Currently armed.
Yeah, because
I think they already attacked him, right? So like they've already kind of started. They've already knocked that ball down the hill. You know?
I kind of wrote it off as like, oh, like the predator's not stupid. Like he's not gonna attack the girl because she hasn't been a threat, but just because the people who were threats dropped their guns, you know, it's not gonna stop him.
I think it goes further. I think you could pick out a part of the narrative to suggest that there's already a moment that they've basically already sealed their fate. In the very beginning of the film, when they go to attack that camp of like guerrilla fighters, and I think they mentioned that the Russians were involved somehow, because of course the fucking Russians are always goddamn involved in these films. But
it's the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at the end of that scene when they attack that camp, you go right into the predators watching them.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because I think it seals their fate, because he's looking for the biggest game of the jungle, right? Or like the most dangerous game to hunt. And that's usually humans, of course. It's going to be humans in these films. But I think it's just important to say, like, I don't think that them dropping their guns would have saved them in any capacity, because they've already sealed their fate by attacking this camp, and the predator watched it. And they are the most dangerous game, because look at what they did to all those people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe but I feel like I don't know. I feel like the story blends itself well into that, because the predator is watching them, and you can tell that because he's like copying their lines, like, and like recording them and stuff like that. Like he's very interested in them in particular.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like, so I guess in with like predator lore and stuff like that, the whole thing for them coming to Earth to hunt is like a rite of passage for the younger like warriors, I guess is what they
Okay.
are, like hunter gatherers, and they have to come and get like whatever the biggest baddest animal they can kill is, and then take it back as like and like a trophy and be like, hey, this is what I got.
Right.
And so yeah, they're definitely like you said, like they just kind of they are the big bad there. So they're already in it. You know, like that guy, he already knows what they are capable of. So even if they did, you know, they're in it. You know, they're committed to that fight at that point, and they carry some pretty heavy firepower for most of the movie.
Yeah.
Right. To be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that they didn't explain that in this film because I kind of like the idea that the Predator is just an enigma. We have no idea what the heck he's there for or what he's doing, especially right off the rip, like the beginning of the movie. Obviously, we know he's killing people because he's like skinning them alive and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think that I don't know. When I was watching the movie, my theory was that he's just coming here on vacation, like humans do when they go to like places to hunt big animals and stuff like
I was
that.
kind
Like,
of thinking that too.
like
I
he's just on
didn't know
vacation, and this is just another like holiday retreat for him.
Yeah, because I had some questions for the lore, because I didn't.
Now,
Like I
now
said,
all I can just imagine is them like him like holding up like the head, doing like the pose like they do with like the hunters do, like laying like the knives around like the guys
Yeah,
like stomach
posted
like
on
that.
his Instagram.
Yeah,
100%.
look what I got, dude.
Dude,
Bagged me a big one.
does he hunt animals in this one?
No, not at
No,
all.
we
Or at
don't
least
see
it
any of
doesn't
that.
show him.
Did they kill?
hunting
Okay, yeah, that was really confusing in Prey because I'm like, what is the point of killing these animals? Like,
I'll
Right.
go into that when we get there. I kind of
Yeah,
I kind of.
I don't want to. I don't want to like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to
Yeah.
start comparing Prey right off the bat with that. Not to say we can't bring it up, but I want to try to avoid that movie because I want to talk about primarily why Predator is so good.
yeah.
Man, this was a gory movie for
I was
1987.
about to bring it up. The props
Yeah.
are very well done. Like when they find the missing soldiers all fucking strung
Yeah,
up and
like
skinned.
that must have been jarring to go like into a theater and see that. Like you're
Yeah.
coming out of that thing with PTSD, man. Like
Yeah,
that,
I was thinking
that was
like
pretty
this is
pretty
good.
gnarly.
Yeah,
I
it was-
liked how
it
the
was well done.
Predator's weapons were unique. Like they weren't just massive explosions. A lot of times they were just ripping holes in people. And I think even there's a line in there where they're like, there's like no shrapnel or like heat
Yeah,
or anything.
it was
off of it.
carterized already.
The dude just opens up basically, and yeah, I mean, there's just so many scenes where he's just shooting them with that weird like tri-laser thing, and their heads are just splitting open and stuff like that. Or their chests are being ripped open. Like it's just a meat sack just being carved right through.
Yeah, the gore was fucking great.
It was awesome.
So why did I didn't want to like just rewind and stuff because I was like the plot is not the most important thing because there was a few things I was confused about. Why did they like need to keep the girl alive?
Arnold
They were
was
trying-
basically saying that he didn't even want to bring her along because she was dangerous.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it was that
The CIA traitor guy.
yeah, he wanted to keep her alive because he thought that they would have more information, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
just
that's
like,
all
how
it
did-
was.
give
They're
the
going to try to
information
get
out
intel. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I missed
Yeah.
that line because I was just
And
like,
I think the plot needed her because it would have been a better giveaway for Arnold, obviously, to figure out like, oh, the Predator is going after people because they're dangerous. Or
yeah, I think
they're-
yeah, I think she worked well. One thing that bothered me was when she tries to escape multiple times, which I like. But one of the times specifically when she stops getting escorted by the main CIA guy, and he asks, I think it's Shane Black. He asks him to watch her, and she's still bound at the wrist, but she like grabs the stick and waits for the opportunity, hits him and runs, but doesn't like
Yeah.
run up the hill. She's like basically at the top of the hill. She's like 10 feet away. So like, why would you not run up the hill and then down? Like she runs like parallel to them, like or diagonal. Like not that she's still in their line of sight and like sort of running towards them. And I'm like, why wouldn't you run like the opposite direction? Because she was in the very back of the formation. And I was like,
right.
that was kind of dumb. But I mean, that's not a mistake. I was just like, come on. Like, you
Yeah,
gotta
it must.
escape better.
It
You had all
could have
that
also
time to
been.
plan.
Could have been also limitations with the set. They needed her to go off camera, and maybe the hill wasn't actually a hill or something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of reasons why a lot of that kind of stuff just kind of does that for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean that kind of goes in like there is, and obviously like when the predator's watching them, that thermal view has got to be almost a hindrance. Like that was,
Yeah, I was
that's
thinking.
pretty crazy to see how far like that's come. But yeah, man, like that's pretty rough. But like so he's just sitting there watching them kind of like go like do their thing, and like eventually she kind of figures out that her best bet is probably to just stay with them after that whole scene goes down. That's kind of a funny like just a revelation for her to make is like, I'm probably not gonna run away. They're like, yeah, like they like the night that first night when all the traps are going off and like the pig is there,
Yeah.
and they're like you didn't go anywhere. She just like looks at him like, yeah, and she's kind of figured out what she's got in her mind.
Yeah, I like that
plays,
development.
Yeah, plays well into the plot. I liked the line where she explains what she saw, where she's like, yeah, the jungle just came alive and killed that guy.
Yeah.
Just because like that's such a like we saw it on camera, but it's such a good description of like what exactly happened, because it's just the predator's invisible and then kills the dude.
Yeah, it's like, how do you describe it?
Yeah,
it's so alien to them.
Exactly. I don't know. It's really good writing actually. For like an 80s action film.
Yeah, the writing was really good for what it was. The CGI, not so much. Although I think I mentioned it to one of y'all when I was watching, but the active camo looks amazing in some of the shots.
I think it's coolish.
It looks really good. I'm like, wow, that's like,
and
did they go back and re-edit this? But
they use it to really good effect.
They do. But some of the shots, I'm just like, why does it look so drastically different? Like, it wasn't consistent. Like, sometimes it looked really bad, and sometimes
it might have been them trying to edit it on different lighting, because you got to think, like, back then, I don't really know what they even had to do that, to be honest with you. So, I mean, like, maybe it's just that effect only worked very well in certain applications. But, I mean, at the end of the day, man, it really did come out pretty well. Like, the electricity effects and stuff across his body were pretty cool.
Yeah, I got nostalgia for fucking Star Wars, because that's like the only other time I've seen that electricity effect. The blue kind of wrapping around, either a target or himself or something.
Right. I think the other thing too that I noticed between the finale and like the very beginning of the film was that they did a lot with making Arnold the opposite of what he was in the beginning of the film, or making the Predator the opposite of what he was in the beginning of the film. Like, I liked how after he falls into the waterfall, the whole film's like tone and everything kind of changes.
Yeah.
First off, I want to bring up that scene when Arnold like crawls up onto the side of the embankment and like rests for a second. You're like, well, obviously he's not safe because the Predator's going to come out. But when that invisible motherfucker falls off of the waterfall and drops into the
oh my god, you see the water moving?
Yeah. That is terrifying.
Like,
holy shit, god. It is scary as hell. And but yeah, I just like how, basically Arnold becomes the Predator at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Because, or at least in like a very broad plot kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's actually getting him into his traps. He's putting the plays in his hands at this point, where he's controlling the situation and on top of things for once. Like the Predator's been dominating their entire team for the entire time they've been interacting, and finally they have the upper hand on him. And it's full just power shift, and it's pretty cool to see.
There's specific parallels too, like when the Predator's invisible at the very beginning of the film, Arnold becomes invisible at the end of the film to the Predator by covering himself with mud.
Yeah.
When there's a specific scene in the early part of the film when the Predator attacks that first time, and they shoot wildly into the forest and just like empty their entire magazines and everything. Huh?
Dutch's tree service?
Yeah, Dutch's tree service.
Yeah, they come back and they didn't hit anything. And I was like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't hit anything except for the first like bullet or two that the guy shoots. He hits the Predator directly in the leg.
Yeah, and then he starts bleeding the Nickelodeon green slime.
Yeah,
dude.
And later on in the film,
leading into that scene too, he's got one of the better quotes of the whole movie. Is when the wrestler guy gets shot. And like, hey, dude, you're hit. And he's like, I ain't got time to bleed.
I wanted to bring that up. I forgot about that.
That's probably my favorite line.
Well, it's not just the line itself, but how the guy reacts. Because he goes, "Hey man, I think you're shot." And he's like, "I don't have time to bleed." And the other guy just goes, "Oh, all right," and then just keeps shooting him.
But then right after that, he's like, "You got time to duck?" After he shoots the fucking grenade launcher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Dude,
There are
But
some pretty good jokes thrown in the movie, man.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty. It's a pretty entertaining movie in that aspect too.
I forgot.
It did feel
I forgot
like
who said it, but one of them was I didn't even write down the full quote. I just wrote down "fucking lizard" because that's what he
lizard.
called him. It's like fucking lizard ass. I was like, oh, I'm fucking weak. That was great.
But yeah, that moment just felt like when he said the line and the other guy was about to respond, he just forgot his line and just was like, okay. Like, it just felt like that. I don't know. Maybe that was intentional. I have no idea. But, yeah, what I was saying earlier, there's a moment later on in the film when the Predator gets attacked by Arnold. Arnold, like, shoots the explosive arrow at him and hits him and then hides behind the tree. And the Predator just starts shooting wildly into the tree line because he can't see Arnold at all. And I like that parallel. There was a lot of that at the end of the fight. It wasn't just like random action. There was like very deliberate action in that film that compared, like, that basically flipped the entire narrative on its head. That went from the Predator being the Predator to Predator being Arnold's prey, basically.
Yeah.
And
one of the coolest shots from that movie, I think when he has like the flaming, like the torch, and he's on the edge of that tree and he just does his war cry to call on the Predator.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's like when it just signifies that start, because he's the one like making all the noise, like just screaming, man. Hey, that's pretty awesome.
Right. And I like the fact that the last fight wasn't just Arnold getting cornered, it was Arnold calling him to a fight.
Yeah, with the whole torch light up, that was awesome. And you see the Predator's vision.
Like I said, I really like the plot points in this film. I liked how the plot just flowed. It just felt really, not only really natural, but it just felt like an evolution of the characters. Or at least what was left of them, I guess.
Yeah, the character.
Right, the character, the main character. And I like the fact that Arnold was alone to face off against the Predator. Like, it goes to show how much he had learned from the beginning of the film to the end.
Yeah, there's so many good moments because it was sort of like a spiritual, like, level for most of these guys, because they're dealing with this alien, otherworldly threat. Like, it's gonna make everyone react in different ways. Like,
right.
One of the guys has like major, revenge boner after his friend got killed, and he gets himself killed, and like Poncho at the end, because he's like the second to last to die. It's just him, the girl, and Arnie, and he sits back on that log, takes his shirt off, like. Doesn't he like cut his chest a little bit with the
cuts his
knife?
chest with the knife?
Yeah, it was just fucking.
I
He's just like, I'm gonna fucking
like
stand.
Yeah, there was a lot of lead up to, like, he takes all of his like gear off and just does the knife and does that, and they kind of killed him off screen. And I was a little kind of beaten by that. I was like, oh man, we're gonna get like a cool like knife fight, like hand to hand combat stuff for at least a minute before he loses, like,
Yeah, or I thought they were gonna at least show like a really gory up close kill. I was a little disappointed that was off screen.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because I like Poncho's character. I liked all the characters.
All the characters were incredibly good.
Am I tripping, or does that one of the white guys looks like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's dad? I was like, I can't remember which.
I have no idea.
One of the most standard like white looking soldier, because there's another white dude who's got the glasses. No, it's the other one.
Okay.
I forget his name, but he looks a lot like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, unless I'm tripping.
The only two white guys I can think of, other than,
no, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
he was like one of the first ones to go.
Yeah,
if not
I
the
think
first.
So.
I think the guy with the glasses was the first one to go.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because he got drug into the woods.
Yeah, but I
forgot.
I like the subtleness of a lot.
Minigun guy was the second one to go.
Yeah, he did die pretty early on. I like how how consistent they kind of like create the atmosphere between the team and the CIA guy, because like this is Arnold's team. Like
Right.
he's the commander, he's the major in charge, and then like this guy's just tagged along. I mean, Arnold knows him from the past, but like they're constantly just like fucking with him, and then it doesn't help that the CIA guy keeps making mistakes. I'm just gonna call him Apollo because he's fucking Apollo Creed, but Apollo keeps making mistakes and getting called out for it, and I was just like, damn, he's really bad. Like it wasn't just a couple. He made like 7, 8 mistakes.
Right. Yep. Right off the rip.
Like just like the whole movie. Yeah, what was his betrayal again? It like wasn't a rescue mission. It was just since his men died, he wanted a team to go in after the Predator, basically.
So they were planning
No.
like an invasion there or something along those lines, I believe. And they ended up they were trying to wipe out the invasion force before it actually got off the ground.
Yeah, the Predator was like not involved with the beginning of the plot at all. He was more worried about the guerrilla forces and stuff like that. And to be completely fair, he probably thought some of his men that had died uh, were by the guerrilla forces. He probably didn't even know anything about the Predator in any way.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
So the character we're thinking of from earlier is Poncho, and that was played by Richard Chavez.
yeah, you're talking about the guy with the knife at the end, or
Oh
No,
yeah,
that's
no,
Billy.
Poncho. Yeah, Poncho is that's confusing because Poncho sounds like the Native American guy's name.
No, the Native American guy was Billy.
Yeah, it's Billy.
right? Okay.
Oh, I love how they took their time. That reminds me, when Billy is tracking like up ahead, he's the point man, and he just stops.
Oh, and you
'cause
see like there's something in the
senses
trees.
predator, and that's not just
Right.
like a. I feel movies need to take their time because like that was paced. The movie's paced excellently because they took the
Exactly.
perfect amount of time for that. Like he was just sitting there, the camera held on that, and then eventually they check in with the people in the back, like, hey, what's going on? Then Arnold comes and talks to him. It was just very well done. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I guess it's nothing.
Well, and I think there's a moment later in the movie, in the very beginning, he notices there's like rustling in the trees from the birds, right? And he goes and investigates it, and he's pretty like, I mean, he's not like completely relaxed about it, but he's fairly relaxed. And then he like stumbles on the bodies, the dudes that have like
Yeah.
the stripped skin. And there's
Yeah.
a point later on in the movie when there's like birds rustling through the trees, and the dude has like a PTSD moment where he just like sits there and stares the whole time and just doesn't move, doesn't
I didn't
want
pick
to
up
move.
on that. That's pretty cool
Yeah.
though. Like, actually, like kind of go back and you get character build up off of certain moments.
Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. So, um, yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of subtle moments like that in that film, like a kind of blink and you'll miss it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just
And
a credit to the writing again.
exactly, I that's why I was so impressed with it. Like I said, what I was saying earlier about the ending where when the predator was like shooting wildly into the trees, just like they did earlier on, he actually wounds Arnold in the leg. Just like when they were doing that earlier in the movie, they wounded the predator in the leg. And
Yeah.
so, like I said, there's just a lot of parallels that happen later on in the film that if you're paying attention to, you can just pick up on real easily. And I don't know, I really liked that aspect of it. It really made me feel like I was being almost rewarded for paying attention to the film.
Yeah. No,
And I don't
loved
feel
it.
like a lot of movies do that nowadays. Like I feel like a lot of films just kind of have a plot and they just go and
Okay,
whatever
so
they need to like.
they do it. They do it, and it's very bad because it's a concept in filmmaking called reincorporation, fancy term for what we just talked about. It's pretty
Right.
easy concept, like set up and payoff. They do it so obviously, like because they treat the audience to make a good movie.
Like
You
an
gotta
idiot.
respect the audience. Yeah, no
Right.
one's gonna watch a film and call it like an amazing classic if you're just baby fed, spoon fed everything.
Yeah, because there's nothing you can rewatch and pick up on, right? Like you pick up on something new every time you watch the movie. It gives you almost a different experience when you do it again.
exactly.
A lot of movies nowadays are spoon feeding you all that information, so you don't really have any of that mystery or questions to answer in your own mind, or like, hey man, I didn't see that the first time around. That's pretty cool. You don't really get any of the exploration when you're sitting there watching and like going in depth in this movie. And
Yeah.
yeah, they definitely don't take their time with that anymore. Like it's gonna be shoved in your face and like rubbed in your nose. Like they're gonna grab you by the back of the head and
Yeah.
just get in there, like.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder. I wonder if it has to do with like the abundance of streaming, because streaming's been around since like 2011, I think. 2012 is when Netflix
Yeah, I
started doing
think you're right.
streaming, and
Yeah,
it
I'd say
kind of got
so.
pretty prevalent in movies. It's not like it would be stupid to say, oh, like they only care about money now. These production companies, like they always cared about money. They want to make money.
Right, yeah.
But I
That's a
think,
business, yeah.
yeah, I think nowadays what happens is, I mean, this is just a theory. I haven't like done any research on this particular topic, but like because the companies know that people are going to be streaming the movies and they get money based off of how long their film or show is streamed. They really because you want to make things attention grabbing and attention holding, but I think they really emphasize it because it's not like in the old days where you would rent a movie or buy a movie. There's already that sense of commitment. Like if you just rent a movie off the Blockbuster shelf and go
You
home,
you
you're
have an
not gonna
investment
stop
in it.
watching it. Yeah, you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
okay, that was a little slow. I didn't like that. But you're gonna keep watching it, or is me like that was a little slow, and then you get the payoff, and you're like, okay, that was worth it. But like streaming now, that's like no, if it's slow at any point, and they're not like hooked 24/7, and there's shit going on the screen the whole time, like they're gonna just quit. And I'm like, I wonder if that influences people, because like
Well, I mean,
it
yeah, it
kind of
makes it so
seems
you
like
you
that.
have to keep it much faster paced that way too, because a lot of
Yeah,
people don't have the attention span for it, man. And like,
exactly.
if you're trying to ship your movie to a really broad audience on streaming sites, and honestly, it's the majority of people now. Like, I don't even know anybody who still pays for cable because it's pretty much, and it's like a rip off.
Yeah, the only people I know
It's
with cable are like
astronomical.
the people who live in apartments where it like comes bundled with the internet and you have no
Yeah, yeah,
choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if you want
Yeah, like
internet, which
that's what you
obviously you
got.
want, you get cable too.
Yeah, I think like, dude, like it's been a while since I picked up like and seen like a guide button and be like, I gotta see what's on today.
Yeah.
But it's like
Right,
you're
yeah.
shipping to that giant audience, and you don't know. Like you were trying to pull in more viewers for your movie, and like you have to make it so it has like these little highlight scenes that they can show off that don't give away plot to, because that's what they're gonna do to like advertise it some. And it's very. I think the movie industry has changed in that way of like how consumers consume their product, right? I mean, like it's definitely very different from what it was 20 years ago when a movie drops and you go to the box office and you're buying a ticket and popcorn and they're making their money that way. Like their money back in the day was how well it did in the movie theaters, which is like your first month of actually it being out. Now like a movie can be out for 3 or 4 months and still be making like I guess a steady income, but it's not going to be quite as like explosive.
Yeah.
I guess would be
Well,
the way to
there's
put it.
another level to it too. I was talking to a friend of mine at work the other day, and I was kind of bringing up the same kind of plot point, or not plot. Excuse me. I was bringing up the same kind of points about it to him about how like movies are just not the same anymore, and or just in general things just shows anything that Hollywood produces is just literally not as good as it used to be. And he brought up an interesting point. He was saying that and in this case he actually brought up an interview that this guy was talking about, and basically they were just basically he just said that Hollywood back then is not the same as Hollywood as today because they had a lot less experience. Not to say that Hollywood hadn't been around for a long time, but Hollywood had grown exponentially around like the 60s, 70s and 80s. And like the amount of people watching films in a theater or at home had just increased by an exponential amount. And they didn't have a lot of experience with what worked at that time, like what brought people into the theater. And so they were just experimenting with all kinds of things. Nowadays, they have more of like
The
an
formula.
idea of what people enjoy. And so that's why every film is basically the same kind
Hmm.
of generic, like summer action film. It's because it's like the most safe way to get people in the seats.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many remakes. That's why there's so many like
Yep.
sequels to a series that has long since gotten its soul sucked out of it. Like,
Yeah, it just sucks. I actually did a whole project on that in college. It's like one of my math courses, which I suck at math, so I try to make it as fun as possible. And I did like a study between the amount of money and the frequency of like movie sequels and reboots and remakes, and just how apparent they are, comparing it to like original films that are also successful. And it's just I mean, money talks. Like, it's always the sequels that fucking take it, and it just sucks because it's very antithetical to what, like, they're reaping the benefits of original good, new, interesting content that was just back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. Like, if they would just wake up and be like, oh, the reason why people are going to come back and watch this remake or sequel is because that original was so good and so unique. But instead of thinking, oh, well, we could just do that and do like another original IP.
It's copy and pasted.
Yeah, it's just like you're literally like they don't see the irony in that, and it sucks because like every once in a while they come by, like the John Wick franchise is fucking dope, and that's completely brand new, and everyone.
Yeah, that's a building story. That kind of it's a little different.
It takes individuals to step out of that comfort zone because it's really not all the company's fault either. It's a lot of the creators as well, the people that are directing these films, the people that are writing these films. It's way easier to copy off of someone else's homework than it is to do your own. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that there are a lot of old Hollywood stars that don't know how to make a different movie or don't know how to keep experimenting or have run out of ideas at this point. Look at some of these old, old people that used to make extremely good movies that are just kind of making the same movies or are experimenting but not really. They're just making the film they want to make. It's like they're in retirement and they're just doing what they want at this point. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
They're making $1 billion off the fucking directing a Disney live action remake. Like they got Robert Zemeckis to do fucking Pinocchio. Like what the hell? And it's so bad. It's so bad. The CGI is worse than fucking Polar Express.
Just an aside, I just want to mention the other night I was downstairs, I was eating dinner, and my dad and my stepmom were sitting down on the couch and we're watching that film, the new Pinocchio movie.
Yeah.
I think it was like almost a month ago. But I was like kind of just barely watching it, like kind of barely paying attention to it. I think I was watching a show at the same time with like my headphones, but I could hear it on like my ear I wasn't using both headphones. Mm-hmm. So, and man, that film just sounded awful. Like every second that I would listen to the plot and just like look up and like watch it, I'm like, man, I'd rather watch the original Pinocchio. That movie was so good. Like, why would I want to watch this crap?
It's a live action movie, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Well, man, I've been spared, thank God.
Dude, don't watch
a lot of these
any
movies are just getting pretty bad, man.
I'd recommend watching YouTubers rip them apart because then you'll get the plot.
That's so much more entertaining. Yeah.
Dude, there's so many. There's a really funny scene where Pinocchio is in the beginning. He literally he's like walking to school or something, and he finds this giant pile of horse shit and just stares at it, and there's like a up close shot of it. Yeah. First of all, it's like, what the fuck, Disney? Why? And second of all, it's like, well, you're just like, this is the perfect like format. You're showing exactly what this movie is. A pile of shit.
It's looking in a mirror.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like that meme, man. Like, oh man, it's a big pile of shit, and it's the guy behind him with the gun looking at the earth. And it's like it always has been.
It always has been.
It always has been.
Oh my god.
Like that's like all live action movies that are remaking like classic cartoons, man. It's such a bad. There's a few that have done it okay, but for the majority, it just turns out really weird.
Yeah, and it sucks because like even it's just stupid because even the ones that do it okay, which I agree, there's like one or two that do a decent job. It's still like, well, the original's still better. Like so.
Yeah, right. You're just in a fever dream, dude. Like they're just weird like acid trips, and you're like, oh my god.
Well, you always get one or two different options with those films. One of them is always it's a 1-for-1 recreation of just a live-action version of the original.
But then
which is boring, and everybody already knows that they would rather watch the animated one because the animated one is full of just so much more life. And then they've replaced all of the actors with famous actors who can't sing. So like half the singing moments when those were like really prevalent in those films, it just like completely falls flat. The other thing is you'll get a remake like The Lion King where they're like, oh yeah, we want to make it into like an animal documentary, and then it's just
trying to pull it into like real world, and then it goes too far in that direction.
Right, and then
it's never really a good balance with it. Yeah, I feel like it could be done well. It could pull to a certain degree into real world
Mm-hmm.
situations, but they never actually get it right. Like it
Yeah.
just
Part of
launches
what
way too
makes
There's
far into
concept
being weird.
art. Yeah, there's concept art. You guys should watch YMS's video. He has a 3-hour review of The Lion King, and that's just part one. Part two hasn't dropped yet because it takes so much time. But one of the many things he covers is the original concept art for the designs. And like, yes, they're realistic looking animals, but they're not one to one like recreations. And the other stupid thing is like John Favreau, which again, talking about these directors and actors who kind of like fall from grace. I don't know what happens to them, but John Favreau used to make some great movies. He had it in his head that animals show no emotion. Like they have zero capacity to show emotion, and you can literally like just go on Google and find lions making all these different expressions with their face, sad, happy. Like
Right.
he purposely made all the animators just everyone's got a blank face the whole movie. Like, what's the fucking point? It's a movie. Like, cinema is an exaggerated art form to explore different topics and themes and storylines. Like, it's not a documentary. And he was obsessed with realism and actually shot himself in the foot and didn't accomplish realism. Like, he went the opposite way because of his own personal viewpoint, but he actually went against fact.
Right. Yeah. I think like I said, the only way that they could make it work is if they go so far beyond what the original was that it's its own thing. And
Yeah.
really, the only thing they have in common are like the titles. Which at that point, why don't you just make it a different movie? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
you're basically just using that name to cash in.
I could
At the
understand
end of
if
the
it's
day.
like a spiritual recreation of the film where it's a completely different thing. Like I think there was like a Peter Pan movie with like live action where it was very different than like the original Peter Pan or whatever.
There's like the Alice in Wonderland like horror movie, I think. I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking of.
Oh,
Hang on.
isn't Hook?
It's not a horror movie.
Hook
It's just
with
directed by
Robin
like
Williams.
yeah. It's got
It's like not the same plot, I don't think.
No, that's not the movie
maybe
I'm
I'm
thinking.
thinking of
There's like
something
there's
else.
one of these movies they got remade into like some actual like dark horror movie. Like one of like the
It's
Disney princess movies or something.
what's that guy's name that plays
Tim
all the
Burton did a
yeah
bunch
Tim
of-
Burton
yeah.
and then it's Johnny Depp,
Johnny Depp.
plays like in that film. He's
Yeah.
like the Mad
Yeah,
Hatter
yeah,
or
no, I
something.
do remember that one. Yeah,
Yeah, but it wasn't like straight up. It was just more
No, that's-
creepy. It wasn't like a
that's not
horror
what I'm
movie.
thinking of. There's
Oh,
another
you're
one.
thinking
I
of
have
something
to-
else. Okay.
I think there was an
yeah, no,
Alice
it's
in
not that.
Wonderland. It might have just been I think it was a show on Netflix, but I think that's just a naming convention because it's like a fair use or not fair use, public domain story at this point.
Right.
I'm not sure if it was actually Alice in Wonderland or if it was just a play on words for the title's sake. But
Isn't
yeah, there
it
was like a
weird?
gory like horror like survival show.
Right. Isn't it weird how there are some of that stuff is and then like some of it isn't? Like Mario technically should be a public domain name now.
Oh
Like,
yeah, no, the companies find all these loopholes to get extensions.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
bring
or
it
they
up.
just lobby governments into doing it. It's so crazy to me. I'm like, man, how awesome would that be if someone else like took the Mario mantle up and just like
Yeah.
made a significantly better game? Actually, Mario games don't really have that issue. Like I don't know, Pokemon does, but
Yeah.
I won't get into that.
Yeah, that's a different topic for a different day.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think we should definitely get into it, but
Yeah, I think Mickey Mouse should have been public domain like twice over at this
yes,
point.
Mickey Mouse is one of the oldest like IPs that are just like 100% not touchable by the public.
Yeah,
It is
I think
so
Disney
insane.
Copyright is
would
only 50
find
years.
every single loophole they can because that's the face of their company.
Yeah.
You know, like it would destroy them. I feel like if you just had Mickey everywhere. That
I
wasn't
don't
with
know
Disney
because
properties.
when's the last time a culturally significant like Mickey movie or show came
Yeah,
out? I mean,
probably the
don't get me wrong.
2000s when we were kids. Like
Yeah, there's a lot of kid shows that come out, but I'm talking about like worldwide. People go and watch it like it's
Yeah.
hotcakes.
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Mascot.
It's the
at this point.
mascot and it's the merchandise is really the big thing about it, and obviously because you know it's Disney, like
Yeah,
you
Yeah.
know they're not 100% the same without Mickey Mouse for sure.
yeah. I know. Actually, Winnie the Pooh, like all those characters are either they already been dropped or they are going to drop out of
Well, we have Winnie the
rights
Pooh,
ownership.
Blood and Honey coming out.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing. There's
Heck
going
yeah,
to be like a
dude.
gory horror fucking thing. I don't know the details of it. I don't know if you know more, Corey, but
No, I just I've heard about it, man. I haven't even seen there's like a trailer out, I think, for it now.
I feel like
We could do an in-depth on
it's
it.
just gonna be awful.
yeah, we can do it.
Like,
It's
no
gonna be
way.
horrible. It's gonna be another Sharknado. Just terrible.
yeah, it's gonna
What are
be
you talking about?
I'm just
Sharknado's
call it a
great.
B movie. It's like a C movie.
Yeah.
I really just can't wait till some of these IPs from the 90s are just up and ready. Like,
Oh, God.
I really can't wait for like somebody to make like a lot of fan stuff around the Transformers. Maybe that won't last as long as I hope it will, but
I don't know, man. There's a new Transformers movie coming out next year, I think.
Dude,
Like
that's
a
I told you to
domain
watch
that
the
has been
trailer.
ran
That
into
shit
the
is-
ground.
that shit is insane. My jaw, it just came up as a YouTube ad. I watched the whole thing and my jaw was just dropped the entire time. I was like, what is this? The CGI. So say what you want about Michael Bay, his CGI looks very good in like all of his movies.
Oh yeah, all
So
those
he's
movies look
directing this
awesome.
one as
I
well.
don't think so. The CGI looks nothing. It's trying to kind of like we were talking about, like super realism versus like realism esque. This seems to be more realism esque. I think it's probably a sequel to like that Bumblebee movie. It's
I actually
kind of
like that
reboot.
style where it dips back into like the 80s.
Yeah, I like
aesthetic.
the
It looks
the
cool,
character
man.
designs. They looked
Yeah.
Like when they were actually on Cybertron in that movie, like I thought they looked pretty sick, honestly. Like I was all down for that.
Yeah.
I still have to watch the Bumblebee movie. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
It's
it. yet.
actually probably one of the better Transformers movies.
that's what I heard.
I got burnt out of the Transformers films, partially because I gotta blame my dad for a lot of this stuff. My dad likes garbage movies, and I'm not even saying in like an ironic sense. Like nowadays, I actually really enjoy watching a really bad movie,
Yeah.
just to make fun of it.
Mhm.
But I cannot understand. My dad would drag us to like the theater when we were kids a lot of times, and obviously it's to spend time with family. But man, we would watch the worst. We watched every single one of the Fast and Furious films. The only one I haven't seen is the newest one, and Hobbs and Shaw. But I don't really count that because it's.
Hobbs and Shaw was actually a fun time. It was a dumb
I want to watch it,
action
but
movie, I enjoyed it.
Again, it's one of those things where I don't want to watch a Fast and Furious movie because I just associate it with just garbage. I just can't.
The first three are tolerable. So let's take it back. The 1 and 3 are tolerable. Like they're actually okay movies. I think they're
I actually
fun
don't mind
too,
the
'cause
first one.
I'm a big car guy, so like those
Yeah,
were like the only
those-
ones that were pretty
Before they got into
rooted
the
in
spy
just
shit.
racing. Yeah, before they're trying to launch their car to the moon. Yeah, like that.
Literally.
That got a little much for me, man. I was like, okay. I think like 4 was okay when they're doing like the. I think that's the. No, that's the one where they're like doing the undercover stuff, and 5's like the bank heist. That's kind of where like it starts.
4
to
is
get a
when they
little much.
rebooted the series.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah,
there's a
soft
reboot. Like, a soft reboot.
Yeah.
I wish I would have done more at Tokyo Drift.
I was
That
about,
was-
I was
that
about
was-
to
that
bring
was a
up
pretty cool
Tokyo
lineup.
Drift because that actually
That's
there's a lot of things because it was before our time or it was during their time, but we were too young. But that movie, I was watching a lot of content on it, and there's a lot of like important shit that came out of that movie. Like for one of the first times, like I guess it was sort of a leading role for the actor who played Han. But they were talking about how he was being recognized by like teenagers and people in public and like fangirled over, and they're like, wow, they're
Sung
freaking out
Kang.
over this like Asian dude. Like this is
Yeah.
awesome. It was just like a lot of it was a step in the right direction for like diversity's sake. Cause yeah, before that, like I don't know, we had Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. That was pretty much it. Like nobody gave a shit about like Asians in movies.
Yeah.
But a cool thing that the director did, I actually started watching.
Hey,
it.
look, we couldn't handle that though. They had to kill him off. All right.
Yeah, they had to kill him off.
Yeah.
He got
Well, they
like
brought
3
him
more
back.
movies.
They brought him back because they resurrected him from the dead. But the cool thing that the director did was so he made a movie. I watched like half of it. I had to stop for some reason. I'll go back to finish it. But there's a movie called Better Luck Tomorrow, and it's like Asian Americans in high school, and there's this plot where they like find a dead body, and it's kind of like a mystery. But Han is in that movie, and the actor is in that movie, and his character's name is Han. And so when the same director was asked to direct Tokyo Drift, he just kind of wrote the Fast and Furious parts in a way that his other movie was like a prequel. So like everything in that
funny.
movie is canon for the character of Han before he like joins.
That's
Really?
awesome. Holy shit.
That's actually pretty fun. That's pretty
Yeah.
funny, dude. I did not know that at all.
It's pretty sick. It's a good movie. I gotta finish it. Yeah, it's in English because it's America, but it's very well done. He's a good director. I gotta check out his other stuff.
It's interesting.
Do you guys want to segue into Prey?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we should probably do that. I forgot about that film. Yeah, man.
Yeah, we have a
I
whole
was in a
guess
good mood
we
until
have-
you brought it up.
I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I have like twice as many notes. This one's like looking at time, like maybe we should get going.
Yeah, I do have way
100%.
more notes.
We're over
on,
here talking about other things.
Nah, that's fine. Oh yeah, the last thing, because obviously Apollo Creed is in Predator, and I didn't realize fucking Shane Black. I didn't really know what he looks like because he's a great director. I've seen a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He's Hawkins.
he's Hawkins, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like I didn't even know he was an actor. And what's crazy is because I haven't watched it, but I know he made a horrible Predator sequel like in 2013.
Is it the 2018 Predator one? I've heard that one's pretty bad.
2013, 2018, one of those fucking years. I don't know, but
I don't know. Yeah, I
it's
kind of missed
really
it, like
bad.
the middle.
Yeah, it's a really bad movie, and that broke my heart because I was like, damn, he was in the original and he fucked it up. Because I already knew, Shane Black directed that movie and it was bad, but like I didn't know he had any connection, let alone starring in the fucking original. So that was sad.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one little thing of trivia I had for the Predator movie before we move on to Prey was obviously they filmed like on location, so the cast had to deal with like snakes and awful temperatures and terrain and humidity. But specifically Arnold, for the last few scenes in the movies where he's covered in mud, that was actually like very difficult to push through because
I'm sure he looked exhausted in
they
those
used actual
scenes.
pottery clay, and at night it would get fucking freezing cold. They were filming at night.
Yeah.
And his body temperature dropped a few degrees, and he was shivering nonstop. And they would try to heat him up with like heat lamps, it says, but it would make the clay dry out, and you couldn't see it anymore. And then they also gave him a schnapps mixture, like Jaeger tea, to warm him up, but that didn't work because he just got drunk and couldn't fucking perform.
That's
That was
awesome.
pretty funny.
Oh shit.
Also, this is a quicker one, but apparently there's a bunch of houseplants in the jungle, for like set design that were still in like the black plastic pots.
Really? Dude, I didn't
Yeah.
notice that at all. That's awesome.
I did not
man.
notice that at all. So
I never
props,
noticed it.
props to them, but that's funny because apparently I guess you can pause it at different moments and spot like potted plants posing in
That's
the
hilarious.
jungle.
Yeah, before we leave, I'll leave this one. I will say, man, I think the most disturbing portion of that entire movie was the stress shaving.
Oh, I forgot about
Dude.
that. That was a
I
great.
was like
yeah.
cringing. I was like, "Why? Like, who does that?" It is he's the real monster of this movie.
Yeah,
Dude's
dry
shaving
with
in the middle
sweat.
of all this chaos.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was awful to watch. Holy heck.
yeah. All right, so Prey,
Movie shit.
the movie,
Episode done.
and has good moments, but it's dog shit. overall.
It's true.
It's.
I mean, you got to think it follows almost an identical like path as the
it's
original.
It's like a Disney live action remake. They try to follow the path, but then they add shit that's not good.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, let's
So,
just add a
I
new
think that-
song.
I think that the cinematography was pretty good in that movie all the way around. Like I think it's a very pretty movie to look at. Like you have all the landscapes and everything are nice to look at and see.
Yeah.
Positives, that is among the only ones. That
See-
is the cinematography and I would say
I
in
don't
certain
even say
scenes.
the cinematography.
I would say in
Yeah.
certain scenes it's okay, and then it's a lot of just the visuals. Like the visual aspects look really
That's
good.
what
The
I'm
Predator
getting.
looks
Like
really
the actual
nice.
the setting they use and as far as everything that they actually have set piece wise, those look really good.
I'd agree that it's a pretty quote unquote film, but I don't look at that as a positive because they really did not take advantage of the time period. Like this should not be a pretty film. This should be like gritty as fuck. Like
Well, I mean, they do show like the buffalo. Like that's a pretty interesting way to tie that in. But like
yeah, that was just like a little scene though. But like
Personally,
overall, everyone
yeah.
is so clean and you can like see the makeup the actors are wearing. And
oh
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh
my
they
God.
look they look like they just showered.
They
Their
did a better
hair's on,
job
like,
with
their hair looks
the-
nice and
Yeah, not to say like all fucking Native Americans were nasty, but just like we've all been in the woods like for
Yeah, like if
for
you
a
live
long
there,
times.
you're gonna be a
Yeah,
little tore up.
everything's not gonna be so clean like that. The French trappers, they looked a little bit better.
Yeah, they look like hell.
They look good. The teeth, they show the guys.
I'll
teeth
be honest with
up,
you.
They look pretty nasty.
It's unfortunate that they were probably the better looking, like dirtier looking people or whatever. But I hated their inclusion in this film. I hated the fact that they were in this movie. I didn't like the fact that they brought up the buffalo because, I mean,
Edgy topic, man. Gotta put it in there.
It was so unnecessary. It was so out of
so
place.
unnecessary. This is why, personally, I would have changed the setting and I would have changed the people that were involved. Like I would have not chosen Native Americans for this film. It's such a headline catcher. Obviously, it's a way to get people in the seats. Obviously, like an easy way to get people in the seats. It's like, oh man, Predator versus Native Americans. That's crazy.
Well, it could have been Native Americans, but 200 years further in the past. You know, like
maybe, yeah. See, that was the other thing. I couldn't guess what the time period and the exact location.
Like 1700s, somewhere in there.
Yeah, with all the
probably
French fur trapping was really
probably before the American Revolution and probably before the French American War.
Yeah, definitely before.
So they probably are in like northern Midwest America or like maybe like I don't know.
That's like in the Great Plains portion is where they're in. So I'd say.
Yeah, I don't know. It makes a little bit less sense because you had less. I mean, not to say there wasn't any Native Americans out there or anything, but the Plains Americans comes around the time when America was expanding more into those territories. So and it's primarily because they were pushed out from the east. So. For me, I don't think the time period lines up very well, but that could just be me. I'm not sure. Like the buffalo, Native Americans like hunting the buffalo and stuff like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely it was out of place. It didn't. That's the problem with this movie. They're not focused on making a good plot with a lot of suspense leading up to the different action beats. They're just. And it's annoying. I'll get into it later, but I have a whole like plan to change this movie into a great movie. Like you could have the setting, you don't have to change it. You could have the same like setup and everything, but just the way it was executed and it was so muddied.
Yeah, it builds up on a lot of things and then they just kind of don't go anywhere. Like like I don't know. Yeah, it seems like is trying to stay focused, but then they end up trying to include too many small subplots into it, where it just gets
too many
muddled.
things going on with the plot of the film. It's very jarring if you go from watching Predator into Prey, especially when the plot was so clean in Predator and the plot is so messy in Prey.
Yeah.
Also, the CGI was terrible.
The other thing I want to say that was really bad about the film is the action scenes were really messy. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but
for the most part, yeah, there were a few moments where I was like, okay, that was badass, but like at the end, there's some. I went back. I would rewind and go frame by frame, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm trying to figure out what's happening, especially at night. Because I get what's happening, but I'm like, that you could have made that work, but you didn't. Like, for example, when she gets him to cut his own arm off with his sharp shield.
Oh yeah.
That was so. Yeah. You could have done that. That wasn't a bad idea.
I didn't actually understand how
Yeah, I had to go back because they didn't take their time with it. You got to understand that.
There wasn't any extra setup for it.
Yeah, film choreography. You didn't need setup, but you did need a break before it was instant. Because I went back frame by frame. He leaps at her, gets his arm stuck through the tree. Okay, that's fine. She stabs at him, trying to go for his throat, and he blocks just in time. And she instantly redirects it with so much power and force that he cuts his own arm off. And I'm like, what the hell? All you had to do was take an extra second there and have her stab, he blocks, and then watch her shift her momentum and get some torque, get some leverage to actually push the shield. First of all, I don't think anyone could do it, even a guy, let alone like
that's cutting through the bone. It's not like you took it at the joint.
Girl. I mean, you could chalk it up to it's a really sharp shield. I don't think cutting it is unbelievable, but just like it was
redirecting his strength.
Yeah, it was stab and instant redirection
fighting
instead of a
too.
stab.
You watched the original Predator film. And when Arnold, who is like a fucking massive dude, let's be honest, is fighting the Predator, that man has zero chance hand to hand
Oh, dude, when
combat
they're
with the
fist
Predator.
fighting,
The
he just
Predator
gets
is
smacked around.
the
Exactly.
Predator is like treating him like a domestic abuse victim. Like Jesus,
Slapping him
and
around.
this
And
little
when he hits
girl
him with the
can just
stick and he
like
like it just
do all
bounces
these
off, he's like, oh.
acrobatics, and she's instantly incredible at just fighting him. I don't know. It just I this is a bigger problem with female characters being written by men. In all honesty, and in some ways, I think it's also a cultural issue of like all of like the male like heroes of not only the greatest movies of all time but even current films are all about being super strong, super fast, and super able to fight. And and I think that we're trying to make female characters into just male
Exactly.
heroes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. And I get that some people are like, well, that's sexist because, you know, you want to be able to just let people do certain things in certain roles. But I don't know. As a film watcher, as somebody who's watching these films, it is difficult
Like, there's
to
no way.
watch.
Like, she
Yeah,
could
it
win
is.
in other ways. Like I mean, she did outsmart him in the end. Like, that was pretty cool to
I was
see.
gonna say, to give it credit, the film did a pretty good job at showing her, like, use her smarts, use her planning.
Yeah, she is
use
one
her
crafty little
tracking.
fella.
Yeah, and I enjoyed
Good
those
Lord,
aspects
man.
of it. Yeah.
I just wish they had spent more time into it. And I also
I mean, they
wish
spent more
that
time. She wasn't a complete Mary Sue like fucking Ray is. Like, they actually showed her training and practicing multiple occasions. Like,
Yeah.
instead of Ray just instantly.
I just wish
knowing
they had done it
everything.
a little bit better.
Yeah.
When and this goes back into like just the choreography of it. When she's like learning about like throwing her like tomahawk and then
rope
like
attached.
rope attached to it. I don't know if y'all ever felt the same way, but whenever she pulled that rope back, I would fucking roll my eyes, man, because it was so sped up and awful looking.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know,
CGI
physically
as full
speaking,
hell.
somebody on the set should have thrown a fake tomahawk and tried to retrieve it with a rope, and saw how that physically looked.
Yeah.
She
Because
was also immediately an expert with that thing. Like, the
True.
second she
She's
built
just like,
it,
"Oh,
she
I'm
had,
gonna
there
tie
was
a
no
rope to
training.
this."
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you've been training with it for 15 years.
Yeah.
well,
Like,
and then there's
never misses
other
a
aspects of the
catch.
film where she's just like always immediately right, no matter what, and there's never a moment when she's wrong. And I'm not
Makes a
saying that
mistake.
every character needs to have that moment of like flaw or just doing something wrong, but
But she did everything perfect. And it's like, wait a
it
minute.
brings so much more suspense when a character does mess up or when a character is put up against the wall. I mean, in the original Predator, Arnold never had any flaws or anything like that, but there are moments when he's like fighting the Predator where he's just like not able to do it, man.
Yeah.
He's just not.
And
He's put it
getting
into
torn.
a
He gets shot a couple times. Like, he gets hit in the shoulder. He gets hit in the leg. Like, he's pretty messed up by the end of the movie too.
Yeah.
true. And when he is fighting the Predator,
Because he's got surface area that can be damaged, and he's still a whole person. I feel like if she
Right.
gets hit, she's
dead.
dead. She's gone.
it's
You can't take the
true.
same size chunk that you would out of Arnold out of her. And
But
she's
you
still
could have
dead.
had him
like-
like exploding a tree or something like that with like an explosive shot, and shrapnel goes into her arm or something.
They
You
showed
know,
her exactly. They showed her running away and like struggling in that sense, but she never struggled. I think she gets hit once by the Predator. I also slowed this down. I think it's right before or right after that shield scene that I'm talking about.
She gets like
before.
punched, yeah, or something
No,
like
I
that.
no,
No, she
I
gets
watched
suplex.
it.
That's right.
She
She like picks her up and like slams her. I do remember that.
No. There was. I think it's I guess I don't remember that, but I guess she does get suplexed. But he swipes at her. It's when Oh yeah, I remember the moment. She has his spear thing and is about to chuck it at him, and it collapses down, and she's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And then she starts fighting like with it as a short mace, which is fine. He blocks like the first shot clearly, and then he like comes up with a shield attack. So he blocks it, and then he comes into attack, and then they don't really show her block it, but I listened to the audio and there's a clanking noise. I'm like, okay, whatever, she blocked that. But the very next instance, the very next thing that happens is he swipes at her with the shield and she gets hit. She clearly gets hit. She goes, and she falls to the ground, and they show her face like reacting. He swiped at her with the shield
It just cut off his arm.
Horizontally.
Yeah.
It wasn't the broadside of the shield. That it was a blunt. That would have been, again, like choreography. Just if you want her to get hit but not die,
actually hit her.
Have him hit her with the broadside, the big surface area of the shield that's not sharp. He literally cut at her with the blades, and she got hit. And I'm like, and you can't see the depth. Like, and I didn't see it cut. I was like, okay, he literally swiped at her with the blade part. Is she cut at all? No. Like, how did she just get hit and not sliced? Like, at least say, oh, she got grazed. She was barely out of range. She just missed it, but she still got cut. You know, because if he was any closer, she would have been cut in half. But they didn't even do that. I was just like, why is the choreography like this? Also, the AT-AT scene fucking killed me. I was, like I said, I'll give the movie props for some of the choreography being pretty okay at some moments. I think the brothers scene was all right when he's like really taking him down. That was a pretty cool moment. He's like up close with the bow, and
so they build a lot of like brother sister like them building up to work with each other, and they never like they do for maybe 2 minutes of the film, and then he's just getting destroyed, and then it's like okay.
I think it was an absolute travesty that he wasn't in the film more. He should have been.
Yeah.
It would have.
I actually like.
It would have just. It would have. Him being so good at hunting and everything, even better than her, like made her a little bit better of a character, even though she was a Mary Sue. Like I think that
she has something to build towards.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like I said, I mean, even though she was a Mary Sue, I was a little bit more forgiving about it because he was in the film. Like, I don't know. I just felt like they did too many like random stuff with random characters. That's another reason why I don't like the trappers in this film. I like the fact that, well, no, I don't even really like the fight scene that they have with him, to be honest with you.
They just get shredded.
Yeah. The only kill I liked from that was the one of the trapper gets like demolished by the shield. Like he just has it and expands it.
The head
decapitates.
Oh, dude, there's a couple good kills in that one. That and when he throws the bear trap at the dude's head.
Yeah, that one was okay. I don't know. There's just a lot of missed potential overall.
Yeah, no. I just wish they weren't in the film.
The shield one was pretty good.
We didn't need to have a scene where the Predator was going completely badass. We already knew the Predator was extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to capitalize on like big action right then and there. That's all they were. They were just cannon fodder for the movie to just kill.
And that goes almost completely against the spirit of the original film. Like the original film, like you almost never see the Predator.
Yeah.
He doesn't ever take big groups on. He only picks them off one at a time.
Yeah. Also, the main issue was he wasn't using the Predator's like patented techniques. Like, it really bothered me that he was just fucking tanking shit and just standing there, not trying to escape and come at them from a different angle. He was just like, I'm gonna stand here and walk up to you slowly and have you shoot yourself in the head with a musket, which I don't know would happen, but I want to thank on that. Yeah, when it fucking reflected off his helmet.
I think the big thing about it too, I think one of those scenes that really perfectly like encapsulate what is wrong with the Predator in this film, when we first see the Predator, the first thing he does, he goes after a wolf, and the wolf bites him in the leg and immediately makes him bleed. Yeah. I think that was like such a misstep of the movie. When I saw that scene, I literally just paused it and just sat there. It was just like, what the hell, dude? What were they thinking?
Dude, all the animal shit was just
He
annoying.
Gets shredded throughout the movie. I want
the only time
that dude, he gets messed up like consecutively and then never has any lasting injuries. Like the bear, that thing got him pretty good. Like it was like tearing him up, and he just walks away fine. Like nothing happened.
Yeah, like when he gets shot in the first film, he takes a second to do surgery on himself and heals himself up. Yeah.
They show him healing himself after the trapper fight. He's like using his little device to like sear his wounds closed.
But like you're gonna have lasting issues. A lot of that stuff's gonna be tearing you up pretty bad.
So I think that they only should have had one animal fight scene.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have the Predator hunting animals, I actually really like the idea of the Predator hunting animals.
Yeah,
but I also think that
showing him it was a whole thing.
Well, no, I think
like
that
the food chain, and so you see like the mouse, and then I think it's like a snake or whatever, and then him kills the snake, and he's building his way up the chain until he hits the humans, and he's trying to become like the top dog.
But like to me, it felt like the dog that ate the cat that ate the mouse that ate the fly. Like I was like, this is like a fairy tale like children's book thing. Like that's what stood out to me. I was just thinking of that. Just like
well, I think that it's not actually that far fetched because if it's like the first time that any of these alien predators have ever been,
they didn't say
onto
that,
Earth.
Though.
He's trying to learn the hierarchy.
They never said that he was the first. If they made that more clear, then yeah, maybe.
Well, I don't think they need to make it more clear. I think that in my opinion, first off, there's one big thing that needed to change about this film, and that is the predator can't die at the end. I think the predator that is in this movie needs to be the same predator in the first film. And he needs to be able to, and the reasoning why I want that, why I would say that is because I think that him being the same predator, that way, you know, when he comes to this planet, he's looking for the biggest game, is what I, at least in my mentality, my mind of like why the predator is there. Like I said, I always just figured that he was just there on vacation hunting like the biggest game he can find. And so when he gets dropped off on this planet and goes to like hunt something, he's just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna find whatever seems dangerous or deadly. And so he like starts off with like a snake that's like attacking a mouse or something like that, and he just like hunts that first, and then it goes on and so forth and so on. But I think that him hunting animals is an interesting way of like saying he's moving up on the food chain of like trying to find like the most dangerous game he can find. But I also think that they should never show him actually hunting them.
Yeah, they showed the predator way too much, and it's annoying.
They could have just shown like a lineup of trophies and done the same.
Yeah,
thing.
or
it would have been really interesting.
So much. It's like, yeah, we know that you know that we know. We already know what he looks like, and it's not a surprise like the first movie. But there's a thing called like immersion, and we know that the characters have no experience with him. So like, why are you showing him for like no reason? Like the characters need to see very little of him because that's what makes him scary and intimidating.
It's the mystery.
The audience also needs to see very little of him.
Yeah, and it's like the same. I knew the Predator was gonna be in the. I didn't show up to the theater in 1986 or when it came out and be like, oh wow, this is crazy. I've never seen this character design before. I didn't like learning everything for the new. I never saw it, but I knew how he worked and his weapons for the most part, and obviously he was gonna be in it, so it wasn't a surprise in that sense. But like, because the movie treated him like a mystery and didn't maximize his screen time, like it was effective. And yeah, it was just very disappointing.
It's
how much
crazy.
they used him in this movie. I'm like, oh my god, just like stop it. Like that's the problem. It's fine with they could have just done the animal hunting scenes, without showing him as much.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. They definitely did kind of overplay because like a thriller character, like you'd want to like it's supposed to be a kind of a mystery, like this big ominous big bad guy, and you just lose all that, and it just becomes some tank that's walking around the woods killing everything. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Two things I do want to say. It's kind of crazy first to think that part of the reason why they wouldn't show the monster at the very beginning of the film, in these older films, is because of limitations with technology. So they're like, okay, we're gonna not show this right off the rip because it looks awful. And so like, exactly, like in Jaws, for instance. But
yeah,
and it worked to really great effect.
A lot more, but they just couldn't get the animatronics to work. They had whole robot sharks built, and they would keep rusting and getting fucked up by the water. The electronics would get interfered with, and they're just like, oh, we'll just show it less. And
yep, and it works extremely well in that film because of that.
It's just that concept of if you can do something, like, should you do it? It's people have the ability, we have the technology, and they just do it without thinking.
Right. So the second thing I wanted to mention was, if I were to do the film for Prey, I would have the plot set up to where they realize that there's something in the woods that is just like killing off the ecosystem, like in mass quantities, and they're really dangerous animals that are just being hunted. And so that's part of what kicks off the plot. The other thing too, I would not have the Predator shown for most of the fights where he has against animals, because that would be incredibly boring.
It's just a waste.
And the only time I would have him fight an animal, it would be with a bear.
Yeah,
exactly. And that would be the first time we'd ever see the Predator. It's the first time we'd ever see him fight the bear, and
Yeah,
he
because the
takes it
reveal of him
out.
being covered in blood is pretty cool. I actually did like that scene where he picks up the bear's body and like drains on him, and that'd be like if that was like
yeah,
your
that could
first
that
scene.
could have
It's
been the
definitely
first
cool, and
like
that's
half
definitely
reveal.
something that should happen.
Yeah.
However, the bear shouldn't maul the predator. When the bear fights the predator, it shouldn't even be like a fair fight. The predator should just seem like he is punching a baby, basically, in the face repeatedly, and just kills the bear with just.
Taking
Yeah,
out
he should
like
not
a
even
700-pound
struggle at all.
grizzly
The bear is
with
a
bare
Mary
hands.
Sue. We didn't see any of the bear training. He just
So when he fights
you-
the bear, he should just have the absolute utmost upper hand and just immediately kill the bear. I mean, we can have a drawn out fight scene, but he should not struggle at all whatsoever.
Yeah,
It
it
should
should
be
be
more
him,
that
like-
the
like-
bear
like
is
toying
afraid of
with
him
it.
than
yeah,
anything
he's
else.
playing with his food.
Yeah.
And so after that scene, that's when you go into like the scene. You remember the scene in the movie where he goes back to his camp and he's like cleaning the skulls?
Yeah.
That should be this scene in this movie where he goes back and he's got the bear head and he just like cleans the skull of the bear head, and then you can see all the animal skulls on the shelf
Yeah.
or
that'd be
like on the
pretty good.
branch. And he's just like looking at the skulls and like, like he does in the original.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, if I was doing a
oh, yeah.
deep dive from the beginning, dude. If I didn't believe or like know like technology, right? Like you don't know anything like in this world except like trees and animals. If I was in her shoes and I saw the Thunderbird, as we've claimed it, in the sky, I would shit myself.
Yeah. She
She's
had
like,
like
"Oh, yes, I
very
saw
little
this whole
reaction
thing."
to every. I saw a red
Dude.
light in the sky, and I'm like, what the?
Like,
fuck?
oh, nice.
Actually, no, they
Dude,
didn't
I'd be
talk like that. They
crying
talk like
on
Californians.
the cliffs. Yeah, they
Yeah,
talk like
they do
normal
kinda
Americans.
sound
That kind of bugged me the whole time too.
Dude,
There's no accent or anything.
I knew of the Comanche dub. They did a whole. I wish they just filmed it in Comanche, but they had people dub over it in their language, and
Yeah.
I was looking
Dude,
for it
that
in the
was one
beginning
of-
and I couldn't find it, and I was like, what the fuck? Like where?
That
This is
was
the
one of
Hulu
the
original.
things-
Where is it?
Yeah.
So I watched the first like 20 minutes in English, and then I was like, all right, let me just Google search like where is it, because this is bothering me, and it's like hidden, because I was expecting it to be in the subtitles on audio selection, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's like a separate. You have to go down like the sub menu and click on it as like the Comanche version. I'm like, okay, well, that's just unnecessering. So I watced the rest of the movie in Comanche, and it made
I
it
didn't know it
much
was an
better.
option. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
if
Yeah,
they-
the
way
voices
better.
were killing
It
me.
should have been. It should have been. I didn't even know that was an option. That was one of the
Should've
things
told
I was
y'all.
thinking in the middle of the movie. I was like, man, how awesome would it have been if they had just like gone for like a dedicated just the actors had to learn a whole new language and they just start or not really learn it, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
No, they would have.
they
They
start-
I don't think anybody just knows Comanche for the most part.
well,
Like
yeah,
these actors. I don't think they're all Native American either.
right. But how dedicated would that have been if they had just like had the actors
That puts
learn
a-
it and just like
it puts a much deeper
gone
layer
straight
into
for
it.
that?
Yeah, I should have told y'all. I don't know why. I thought it was a well-known fact because the media made such a big deal about it. I should have reminded y'all because it definitely made the experience way better.
Yeah, and that way I don't have to worry about what the fuck their accents sound like because it's just in another language.
Yeah, it made. Yeah, it just. And what I was watching, especially later when she's talking to that one French guy that knows Comanche, I'm like, so in the English version, he's just speaking English and saying it's Comanche. That's so weird.
Yeah, and then they're speaking French the rest of the time.
Yeah,
like
so
Yeah.
for me, my immersion was better. Besides that intrusive
Well,
thought, because
and-
I was like, oh, he actually is speaking Comanche.
here's
It's
here's
not-
a
and I
food,
was
yeah
not
here's a
speaking
little food for
English.
thought. I was thinking about it. I was like, man, why are they French? Why is it specifically French trappers? Because if you wanted to have like a narrative about white man killing the buffalo, why would you not have it Americans? And then it hit me. I was like, because then they would both be speaking English, and that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
Oh, shit.
It wouldn't mesh.
And so that's why they're French.
They're like, wait, why do you speak our language?
Yep.
No, it's different. Don't think about it.
So that's why they're French trappers. It's not has to do with anything with historical accuracy or anything like that. It's just like they couldn't have them be Americans because they have the main character speaking English, and it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, all they had left were the French and the Spaniards, so they had to
The only
throw
other
someone under
thing-
the bus.
The only other thing that they could do, which would also be kind of interesting, is if they did have Americans and they were just speaking in a weird language, and it sounded weird
Just speaking
and
pig
didn't make any
Latin.
sense. because then it would just be like, okay, so we're listening to it as if we know the actual language of this native
they
tribe.
could have done.
They're just speaking Louisiana America.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
oh god,
Like a water
down
boy.
by you. Like, oh no.
But then the only thing is that would be way too confusing for the audience.
It would have been cool because you guys seen those videos where people. There's been a couple of them, but they make it like this is what English sounds like to non-English speakers, and you listen to it and it sounds like English, but it's gibberish, and it's like very well done with all the
That's true. They
pacing
could have
and
done something
intonation. They
like
could have
that.
done that. But
It would have been really. Well, okay, that's fair. We should give more credence to the intelligence of the audience so that they would understand that.
yeah,
But I don't know. It would be really confusing from a certain perspective.
yeah, it just
There's,
sucks because I'm pretty sure the creators wanted Comanche to be the standard.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it makes
But
more
the
sense. It
studios
just doesn't
pushed
really
them.
mesh very well.
Yeah, the studios pushed them to do English, and it just is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
So-
one thing that bugged me in the beginning of the film, is the whole explanation of the medicine she carries around.
Mm-hmm.
She uses it to help the guy like not bleed out
Yeah,
by
'cause-
making
and
him
she
hypothermic.
knows. Yeah, she knows that it lowers the blood temperature, and I'm like,
Right,
did they
so-
know that back then?
Well, even then, if it makes you cold, I knew that didn't really seem right, so I did my Googling. I'm not exactly an expert on this stuff,
You are an
but
EMT, so
that's besides the fact. I'm not that good at this
dude,
stuff.
you should do this. You should take this practice into work. Just fucking.
Oh my
You're
god,
helping
dude,
somebody
I will.
who's dying. You just shove some
Dude,
orange
if you're-
flowers in their
So,
mouth.
oh my god. Well, so this actually does the opposite effect. She's saying cooling the blood. So if you make the body hypothermic when you're bleeding, being cold, even like minor hypothermic, like a degree or two,
Mhm.
well, actually stops the platelet function in your blood, so it doesn't coagulate or clot at all. So you actually
Yeah.
bleed
Right.
out far faster when you're cold.
That's why
So
when
she just killed that
Yeah,
dude.
I
She's
knew
killing
something
people.
was wrong.
Yeah,
I
that's
knew
when
something was off.
that's why in those films with like where they talk about like, oh hey, take this, drink this whiskey while I'm patching you up for a major hemorrhage.
Like,
or
wait a
whatever.
minute.
And it doesn't make any sense because it
No.
thins your blood to
Yeah,
drink.
dude, this chick is
So-
the OG Dr. Death. She's just running around shoving these flowers in dudes' mouths and bleeding out. Like, oh, I don't know what happened
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah, it usually the reason why it makes you cold is because it's thinning out your blood. And if it's thinning out your blood, it means that it's not actually coagulating.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that was like someone's like, man, that does not sound right. I gotta Google this before I take it onto the internet.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think that it would actually kill them, but it could.
Yeah,
be,
that was
I don't
pretty
know.
funny
It
to
may
me.
be,
I was like, man,
it's
also, what- I guess-
pseudoscience.
like, dude, I feel like that Predator, man, he just gets tanked a lot. He gets
True.
stabbed to the chest, and he just like it just shrugs it off, man. Like,
I guess maybe you could argue that because it's a different Predator than the original Predator, and I haven't seen any of the other sequel films or anything
No.
like that, so I'm assuming that must mean that like, I mean, it has to be that all the other Predators in all the other films are different Predators because they like kill the Predator at like the end of every fucking film.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
I'm sure.
it would just been
I'm sure they
interesting
did.
if like the Predator that is in this film is the same Predator like as the original film, and he like learns a lot of stuff about fighting humans and stuff like that, and then he just becomes obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I do think that they like scaled the weaponry and equipment that the Predator uses to the time frame too. Like, he wasn't just the exact like a replica
I
of
was
the first one.
confused though because I'm like, well, he's still an alien with flying ships and electric bombs and like
Well,
electronics.
he still has like
right.
some of the stuff, but like they don't have like the plasma weapons or anything like that, and his like helmet's a different style. Like, it's
I
not
thought
the
the
metallic
design was
look.
really
It's like
good.
Yeah,
I
I
thought,
like the
and
design.
he actually
He
looks
looked
cool. Like, he's
badass.
more, he's like less covered up. Like, his dude's got like an 18 pack. I don't know
Yeah,
what's going on
exactly.
there.
Yeah,
He's got that
Like-
Alien 6. Yeah.
Like, it was pretty cool. Like, I kind of liked it. What do you guys think? Like, comparative, like the two
I like
aesthetics
the,
of the two Predators.
I like the apparel and I like the design, but I really wasn't sure about the way I felt about his weaponry. Because on one hand, I like the idea that they went more primitive to say like, oh yeah, they evolved, but it doesn't
Yeah.
really make any sense from like a spacefaring race kind of way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like,
Yeah,
what is
he's
the
still using
rate
like kinetic
of
weapons.
evolution? For
Yeah,
them
it's just
versus us?
I guess it's all up to your independent viewpoint of what you would consider like a spacefaring race and that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
The laser tracking like harpoon things was fucking fine, but the way that the movie treated it was so stupid. Like, that technology is fine. Like, it goes to where the laser is exactly.
He also should know how his own weapons work,
exactly.
right? He's
That's
just
what
like he's there
pissed me
blasting
off
off
at the
people,
end.
and it's like he knows that it's not aiming anywhere. Like I don't understand that.
So what I
like
wrote it off. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It made it seem like the Predator was just incapable of learning, which doesn't even make sense from like.
Well, I think it's supposed to. It's playing on the fact that he is like a super young one, right? Like I get like it's them trying to like go out into the world and do their own thing too.
He knows
so
how
like
his
that's kind of
weapons
it's drawing
work.
a. Yeah, he doesn't know how his own weapons work. Like that's like, all right, man. Like what? Do you, like maybe you aren't ready.
Yeah.
Like,
So
and you should have figured this out the first fight too, because like he knew it would happen when he dropped his mask in the first time he happened. So like you didn't learn from that at all.
yeah, that's what I was.
He also levitates out of the mud in the last scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird.
I'm just like he clearly was lassoed in there and fucking like.
No, dude, he just has mad flutter kicks.
They try to do this badass levitation. I'm like, is he standing? Like, how come she couldn't stand? They're like the same height basically. He's not that much taller. And yeah, that
might have an extra foot or so. But yeah, like dude, man, just I think he's just flutter kicking under the water just as hard as he can. He's just not moving.
He's trying to keep his upper body still to look cool.
He has to look very
menacing. His upper body's completely still. His like feet are moving.
Exactly.
Underneath is just a guppy.
Yeah, but particularly with the harpoon laser thing, yeah. I assumed, like, because he gets his helmet knocked off by the brother in that first fight, and he shoots the harpoons, and obviously, like, he knows that it goes to the laser because he should know how his fucking weapon works. Right. But I didn't see that as an issue. I was like, oh, like, it still goes a good distance before it starts following the tracking. It's not like it shoots and then 2 inches out the barrel, it fucking goes to the laser. It went really far forward, like a good, I don't know, like 30 feet, it seemed like, before it arced. But in the finale, it doesn't do that. It turns basically instantly. It's got like 3 feet. I thought she was going to duck. She doesn't even duck.
Dude,
are you fucking kidding me? Like, yes, that's a okay. First of all, it's a terrible plan. I'm gonna get you to stand in the bog exactly at this position where the laser is. Like,
yeah, you have no way to aim that thing.
I think it'd be okay if she like had it hidden, and then she like whipped it out and aimed it at him. That would make more sense. It's still just stupid to get him to shoot himself in that way because, yeah, first of all, it should have killed her because she was like 10 feet from him. Right. So it would have gone through her and then gone to the laser, not just like, oh, I'm going to do a sharp left turn immediately. And then second, even if he misses or she ducks or it plays out like it did in the movie where it starts following the track, he had so much time to react and he knows his technology. Like, why did he not duck? Why did he
just stand there?
He just stares at it coming at his face and like cocks his head. He could have just cocked his head
did a little dumb like, huh? Like, oh my god, like a little grunt saying, "Oh wow,
dude, that kind of irritated me." I was like, "Man, are you kidding me?"
That was so dumb. And then, the other dumb thing from that fight scene earlier is when she does the AT-AT takedown on his legs, and he does nothing. Dude. He does nothing. She goes, "Doggy," and he runs and hands her the axe. And I'm like, you could so many things in this movie. I'm like, okay, the choreography isn't great, but you could have made it better. It still wouldn't have been amazing, but you could have made it better. Like, she could have done a tie-up sequence, but not running. She ran at him. She sprinted directly at him from like 30 feet away, and he just stood there. It's not like it would be one thing if she was like on the ground and like they're doing the classic like big guy taking big swings from top and she like barely dodges and then she transitions from that to like tying him up. But she sprints at him and he doesn't. All he had to do is put his foot out and she'd get demolished. Like, I could not believe that they put that in the movie.
He just curb stomped her in oblivion, dude.
Yeah, he
not
just
to mention
stands
too,
there.
he's like 7'2", 7'4", dude. He's pretty hefty and he's muscle. I think it weighs like 300, 400 pounds, and she just yanks him down like it's nothing. She's like a 100-pound, 110-pound chick. Yeah. Come on, man, wait a minute.
And it's really goofy, especially if you compare it to the original Predator fight, where Arnold goes to smack him in the face, full force, his entire weight into his punch, and the Predator just like glances it off and just acts like it was nothing. So but yeah, if you compare the original Predator fight to this Predator fight, it just makes this Predator seem like an absolute brain dead idiot.
Yeah.
which is just really disappointing.
And
Like,
it disempowers the female lead because her
right,
whole thing is that she's smart and she's planning. And I'm like,
right, and
well, it's
it,
not that much to plan. Now you're
Arnold
just like hunting a
Arnold did the same
deer.
thing in the original Predator film, where he planned all of that out to try to lead him into a trap.
Yeah.
And right as the Predator is about to go into the trap, he like notices and learns like, oh hey, yeah, he's done this earlier on in the film where he laid out like a natural trap that I can't see with my Predator vision, but I
Yeah.
noticed that he's got these spikes here. He's like, no, I'm going around the trap. And so he goes around, and that's when Arnold kicks the counterweight,
Yeah,
kicks the
exactly.
tripwire to set off the counterweight to crush him.
Yeah, there's a back and forth. Like Arnold was learning, the Predator got caught up once, and then he learned. Exactly.
Right,
I also
exactly.
like that
did.
when the Predator lost his mask, he loses like the thermal vision and he goes to like that redded out view in
Yeah,
the
that
first
was
one. We don't get
crazy.
any like they don't really ever like revisit that in
Yeah,
this
I
one.
was
No.
always confused about the vision. I was like, is that their natural vision?
I think
That's
that's
just how
their
it works?
natural
And I'm like,
vision is
oh,
the
no.
red,
Then his helmet came off. They showed the red. I was like, that
which
makes
that is
sense.
miserable.
Yeah, that makes sense. You
Yeah,
can't
that's
see
also
shit.
miserable.
I did like her plan to lure him, and the scene where
Yeah.
she grabs the trapper, cuts his leg off and stuff. That was cool. The speech was annoying. The speech was over the top, but the fact that she already had her body temperature down, and she had the guy waiting with the gun, so that he would be the threat to put him in position, and I like that. And she shot him in the head, and her gun failed before. It wasn't like, oh, I instantly know how to use firearms, because I want to make
Yeah,
any
I
sense.
did like that.
She had to get taught they showed it for a few minutes on screen, and she was getting like taught more off screen too from that guy, and it failed when she first did it. I did think it was dumb. I guess that kind of makes up for it because she failed at first. But he was just like a little bit of powder, but not too much. And I was like, how does
she's
she?
like
She
a
has
little
no
bit, but not too
reference
much
for
shit.
that.
She has absolutely no idea what a little
She
bit and
has
not
no
too much is.
scalability. I was just like, okay. So I guess she figured it out. But yeah, that was funny.
The Predator also
Um,
shrugs off that back of the head shot with absolutely no like deficits or like having that mess him up at any point in the fight. Like I figured maybe like he'd be kind of like stumbling around a little more.
Yeah, at least it stunned
Maybe-
him like a good amount.
Yeah, but
at
like
the
man, that's a
time.
pretty gnarly shot.
Yeah. It's a big
Um,
basketball.
Yeah, considering that it's never implied that he's like impervious to bullets in any way. Like in the original film, he gets shot and he has to perform surgery on himself.
Yeah.
I think he gets hit once in the shoulder during the like the scene with all the French people.
Yeah,
He
but I
takes
don't.
like one in the arm, but it doesn't even phase him.
Right, I don't really count this film's like. I always want to look it back at more of the original because obviously it has to live up to the original, but also the physics behind how the Predator works should be based off of the original and not something somebody just makes up on the spot in their own film. Because you're going to be comparing it to the original no matter what. I think that there's a scene where she goes and fights all those French people or the French trappers in like the in the camp. That fight scene choreography is it sucks.
Yeah,
I
it's really
couldn't
bad.
follow what was happening the entire time. I don't remember if that's that same scene where she like cuts his leg off or whatever, but like I
No,
literally
that's
there was
way
times when
earlier,
she
yeah.
was fighting people and I just couldn't tell what she was doing to strike them.
It looked like I mean, I could tell what was going on. I didn't have a problem with following, but I had a problem with the believability of the whole thing because it looked like stage play acting.
I just
fight,
couldn't follow
because-
it. I really just could not follow it.
Well, they were trying to do all these like fancy John Wick jujitsu because that's what they're all trying to do now, copy John Wick. She was doing like jujitsu fucking moves and incorporating her tomahawk in the mix, and it just sucked because every attack she would get was like the most over telegraphed big swing that wasn't gonna hit her even if she didn't move, and it was just so slow. Like I don't know, and yeah, there's a point where she gets grabbed and she's like fighting somebody in front. She's get grabbed from the back. The guy's like not even grabbing her, and I'm like, this is not like a martial arts thing that you need to know the right technique. Just fucking grab her. He's like massaging her back. That's what it looks like. He's like,
Yeah.
there's so much distance
light
between the
neck
two.
massage.
Yeah, like he's like, oh, I'm just gonna stand here and move like an NPC instead of like actually grab you. Because I would have been fine. She actually gets grabbed and she actually escapes. But no, he was just like standing there. It was that was really bad because they tried to do it in one take. So I think that's why that choreography looks extra bad compared to the rest of the movie because
Yeah.
they don't have editing to fix the mistakes.
I thought it was interesting because it did seem like a lot of some of that fight scene was just like one continuous take. It wasn't just like it's not edited together like it normally seemed it would be. I don't know. I can't remember because I didn't go back and rewatch it multiple times or anything like that. I watched it the first time through. I was like, man, this is so bad. I don't want to rewatch that.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of her like doing the little leg kick off of the trees and stuff like that to change her momentum?
I thought that was fun.
Dude, she's like, I guess it shows like she's moving around the woods all the time. Like, she's kind of like running around chasing stuff. So maybe she picked that up along the way.
Yeah, she's doing a little Connor Edwards.
I just thought it was really funny to watch. Like it was like parkour straight out of like Assassin's Creed or something.
Yeah,
and I was pretty. I thought it was alright. I kind of get like if she's actually having to run around the woods, eventually you're gonna kind of pick up some things here.
Yeah,
and there,
that's not crazy.
Right.
They didn't try to like overdo it with like parkour moves that like nobody did back then. Like jumping off a tree, that's fine. Oh,
the other thing
the
I
tree
didn't really.
Stuff go ahead.
Oh no! What were you saying?
The tree stuff reminds me. It's so annoying because at the end when she does her prep for the final battle, she puts spikes like 10 feet in the air
in that one
on the
tree?
trees, right?
Yeah, he's been running around treetops.
He hasn't been.
No,
the thing.
not in the entire movie.
In
he
the
has not
original, he's
Oh,
in
man,
the
that's what I'm
trees
thinking of.
the whole time, and I'm like,
Yeah,
that's why
he does trees in the dead forest part for like a minute.
I was gonna say,
been. Yeah,
he goes
very
above them, he gets
briefly
behind
though.
them.
But he's
very
but it's
briefly.
only
'Cause for the
once.
most part, I was thinking back. How did she plan that? She like didn't see that because in the fucking trapper scene where he's taking them all out, he's just tanking stuff and not invisible and on the ground. I'm like, he's not fighting like the Predator does, like bouncing.
when
from
he
tree to tree.
attacks.
So how did she know to set that up? That was so dumb.
When he attacks the group of Native Americans, I just thought, oh man, he's gonna like pop in from like the bushes and just like shoot them.
Yeah,
because
there's a
be
very
up in a tree
enclosed
somewhere.
space. It was
Yeah,
like a
well,
little
He just
ambush
walks
area.
right up to them. I was like, what? Do y'all remember that?
That's
He
another
just
thing, too,
walks
yeah. He just
directly up
walks
to
in.
them.
I feel like also like they made those guys like all dickheads just so it can seem like more of a triumphant thing for her to like beat their view of her, which is just like, come on, like they were just all raging assholes.
You compared that to
movie.
the original cast, and some of them
Where
were
they're
a
like
little
a-
bit
like a
dicks to each
meshing-
other. But for
Yeah,
the most
it's
part,
just like-
they're just
They're butting heads. It's just
Yeah.
natural. They're they're not on a team with the CIA guy.
they're just
like,
they're buds. They're way more buds, and they have like better personalities. The
Yeah.
whole point of these other Native Americans, other than her brother, is just to show her up or just be mean to her for no reason.
Yeah,
just so she can prove them wrong in the end. That's about all it equates to, is her her full arc.
Yeah,
And
And it's
honestly,
just
man,
like, I feel like they could have just been as supportive and have been the same.
well,
Honestly, they could have cut them from the whole film. And
they could have cut them
changed
for this
anything.
movie, but I was gonna say
But-
this transitions. If you guys want to hear my idea to just make this a better movie, because
Yeah, do it.
I don't mind like the female protagonist is fine, but the problem we were talking about earlier, just like you said, Hollywood makes female protagonists the same as male protagonists. They don't acknowledge a difference, which is stupid because there's some great action female protagonists, fucking Ripley in the goddamn Alien movies.
Exactly. I was gonna bring her up earlier.
Because they play to the differences and strengths of men and women, and like she could have. I don't have a problem with her believably like taking on the Predator if they did it the right way, but the whole story, because they try to give her motivation, because the writers are like, oh, this is a movie and characters have motivation. They're like, her motivation is to prove the boys wrong, and that is just so boring and so stupid, because she could have been the protagonist and she could have beat everyone. They could have kept that same struggle too. I'm not saying just ignore it and be like, oh yeah, she's already accepted, everyone's supportive. She could have wanted to hunt, but they just wouldn't over the top play it up like that's her, because she makes dickhead decisions that gets people killed and hurt because she's just selfishly trying to get her award for hunting the thing that hunts her back, that trial. I think the movie should have been incorporating a lot of ideas like you guys said earlier, but it should have been like doing a Die Hard, because instead of her motivation of trying to get that trial done be the driving force of the movie, it should have been the Predator starts hunting animals and we don't see it like we talked about earlier, but then when he starts getting to the men and they're getting picked off one by one while they're hunting, eventually that's just going to leave her. So it's going to be left up to her to prove herself, but because she's the only one left, because all the hunting threats, threats in the eyes of the predator are taken out. And so that way she's defending the village, she's defending, the people who are still alive, and she has to like step up into action, like she's called, like this is her chance, you know what I mean? Instead of like, oh, I'm just going to be a dickhead and like get these people killed and put myself in danger, and it was just so stupid. It makes the character unlikable,
right.
The way it's written now, because it's like you could have had her be an awesome protagonist if you just give her the space to step up to the plate, instead of having her be the driving force, having her selfish desire the driving force. And that trial stuff was stupid. There's like another scene where they're talking about it to explain to the audience what it is, and I'm like, why are you talking about it? You already know. It's straight up. It's like, this is what you want to do for your trial, where you hunt something that has to hunt you back. And it's like, you guys both know this. You're just saying it so the audience can understand. Like, I hate lazy writing like that. But yeah,
I'll be honest with
I
you.
think that could have worked. I don't know if you guys agree. It's just
I
a really
agree with you.
simple
I think
change.
I think that would be a good step in the right direction, as
I
well
think
as actually
that-
having the Predator doing more Predator things as opposed to just having like Juggernaut. Maybe he got a kill streak early on. I
Yeah.
didn't see it, with all the animals, and he just like called it in, and that was why he's just tanking all this stuff.
Yeah,
But, like,
yeah. There
that
could have been a
makes no
scene where
sense.
they like hide the women and children, and the guys,
Right.
the village, the tribe men have to fight him off, and she can like see through a little crack, of him like killing all the guys. So like all the guys are getting wiped out, and then she can, at that point
But
she
more
can
in
make
like
some
a
observations.
picking off faction too,
Yeah.
or a fashion like that would make it just makes it like it just didn't fight like it's supposed to.
Yeah,
Right.
Like it's like its
So-
whole motif is like
Yeah.
it's being this like hunter picking people off one by one, not just sitting in the middle of a battlefield. Like
And her
Right.
observations were so, it made them feel cheap. First of all, they already have to overcome the uphill battle of she has to learn the same things that Arnold did. She has to learn that, oh, when you're cold or your body temperature is covered up, he can't see you. His vision is temperature based. Or I forget the other thing. It'll come back to me. But when you learn those things about the Predator, like this movie's fighting the uphill battle because they got to do it again. So they got to make it. Obviously, she has to learn it in a different way. But they're shooting themselves in the foot even more by drawing it out, because when Arnold learned, oh, like he can't see me because I'm covering my body temperature, it was a very short like scene. He just picked up on it because he walks right up past him while he's like under the log or something like that, and he's like, oh shit, the mud that I fell into like saved me. But for her
Right.
scene, it's so drawn out. He's like, oh wow, like he doesn't see him because I just gave him the cold blood medicine, and then I'm just gonna watch more, and I'm gonna let this, he's gonna walk around a bit. I'm just like, we get it, like just move on. Like it was so drawn out. And I forget the other thing you learn about, oh, the laser thing too. They had to just show her watch all three of the prongs like go into the tree, and then she's like, I got it, and it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like it's so slow.
she's learning at her own pace. Okay.
there, there's really one thing, two things I should probably mention. One thing, I didn't really like the setting, personally. Nothing against like Native Americans. I think that, like you said, that it could be written well into a movie, but personally, I felt like the jungle setting is so much better for the Predator, in my personal opinion, because there's so much foliage. He's easier to hide and stuff like that. Even being invisible, there's still characters that can spot him relatively easily. And so, having the trees and the bushes and things like that to hide behind, and picking enemies off from the distance is just it works so much better in the original Predator film. Whereas in America, like in especially in the Midwest, you have a lot of plains. You've got a lot of like jungle, or not jungle. You have a lot of forests that are just like really sparse tree forests. There's not like a lot of dense forests in the United States, and so there's just like not a lot of more places for the Predator to hide. Like I like that fact that like when they were in the jungle, it was like 10 feet in any direction, not even like 5 feet in any direction was just like foliage, and you just couldn't see.
He's also
past
most of the time sitting above them, like 10 feet away, just
Right,
like,
and-
camouflage, just watching them, which is like crazy. Like this one never really stalked anybody. It just would show
his
up.
predator vision is so much more effective in a setting like that where they have a hard time having any kind of visualization.
Yeah, they need the contrast
through the trees, whereas he can see easily through wherever they are, and it works to greater effect of like that idea of like I'm being watched kind of feeling. And I don't know, I didn't really like the setting because of that. For one, for two, if they were going to keep the setting, they really needed to just up aspects of it. The predator needed to be more creative than just walking up to a group of enemies and then just slaughtering them. It was really boring to watch that. There was no suspense. There was no like sense of danger of like characters just in danger constantly. I mean, characters were dying on screen. I just didn't feel anything towards them. Part of that is because they never had a dedicated cast of individuals that, other than herself and her brother, were like the only primary characters. And the only other time there was like a character outside of that was like that one French guy that was teaching her how to use the gun, where he was like acting
and that was
kind
a matter
of
of 30
towards
seconds.
her at one point.
Yeah.
Also, the French guy, why was he not bleeding out? Like they didn't show that he got cut or shot with a weapon that like cauterized his wound.
I think he was bleeding out. I don't know.
No, he was. He like crawled. He hopped over to her with the gun and just was not bleeding at all. Then he like lay down and he wasn't bleeding. I didn't see a tourniquet either. She just like rubbed some shit on the nub and then fed
Hey
her,
man,
fed
she has
him the
magical
flowers.
healing powder. You should we learned this the whole movie, okay?
You should have bled out. If you fucking
rub certain plants and things and it just
Dark
goes
Souls
away.
Gatorade.
losing a leg, you will bleed out so fucking fast.
Oh,
Like,
Yeah.
holy shit. And the fact that he wasn't bleeding at all, just like, well, at least explain it with like, oh, this is a built-in tourniquet, which makes no sense for a weapon.
Or like,
or it cauterized, like something.
Yeah, have her grab a stick from the fire that was in the middle of the camp at the time
Yeah,
and just
right
like
next to the fire.
cauterize his wound. Like,
She just rubbed some mud on the little bone stub. That's all you need.
Yeah, no. She has her leaves, okay? That cauterizes things. They're hot leaves.
Oh,
Hot leaves and cold blood. That's like the whole thing for this movie.
Hot leaves, cold
he
blood.
was definitely not bleeding very much. Yeah, the movie was definitely more. It wasn't like the original Predator film where it was just absolutely to the max gory. Yeah. It was like PG-13 bloody.
But then it wasn't. There were moments where like, okay, they showed a lot. It didn't hit
like
the
same
dog
way, getting disemboweled was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The wolf, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, the dog. Speaking of the dog, he's so fucking domesticated looking. Like he just looks like a normal
that dog?
pet. He looks nothing
Yeah,
like
they should have looked more like a wolf.
They should have done some research because it's actually really disappointing. Dog
just like
breeds.
A pit bull mix.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize this. Dog breeds were very important to Native Americans, especially before Western, or well, I guess you could say Eastern colonizers, but I always call them Western because people just call us Western. But anyways, even before like Westerners came to the Americas, and you had people bringing in horses and stuff like that. Dogs were extremely important to Native American culture. Like a lot of people don't know that or realize that, and they had a lot of like unique dog breeds. Like the Chihuahua was actually a dog breed from the Native Americans. So like it's kind of disappointing to see them just pick some random dog breed. Like they should have done their research.
Yeah.
There was massive dog breeds that they would use as their rudimentary like horse or mule kind of thing, where they would carry like packs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
or like any kind of like herding animal or something like that, instead of just having like a mutt.
Yeah, it's just like a dog, also looking very clean. Even though dogs love to roll in the mud in modern times, and you got to give it a bath. Yeah, this dog is just gonna be pristine the whole time. Just came back from the Native American groomers. Dude, the other thing that pissed me off
yesterday.
Yeah, the other thing that pissed me off with the dog was that scene. I think it's one of the times where they're like either running away from the bear or the predator, but he gets his tail in the bear trap, and I'm like, how? How did his tail?
I said the same
How did his tail get hit?
I think it's because they didn't want to show his foot getting caught in the bear trap, because like maybe they thought, that would break the bone and that would be really bad for the rest of the
don't get him caught in the bear trap. It had nothing to do, like it didn't.
The only reason why they had that scene was to Well, the only
show her
reason why they would
medicine.
have that scene, and I think this is personally my feeling on it, is to foreshadow the trappers and when she gets her leg trapped in the bear trap.
Yeah, but they could have
Yeah,
just
that's
done
about
the
it because it
leg
shows
in the
they're
bear
there.
trap, and then it's like, oh, that's the same thing. Like,
Right, I know.
or
It
just cut the
doesn't
trappers
literally
out.
make any sense.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the
because you
other
get foreshadowed that people, that white people are there anyway, because you have the all the
cigar
Buffalo
buffalo that have been
scene.
killed
and the
and the
cigar.
cigars.
That also pissed me off.
Yeah,
They show the cigar like for 40 seconds. Like we get it. Like
they just sits there and
honestly, it would have
stares
been
at it and
cooler.
rolls it around.
Yeah, it would have been cooler if it was just there and he didn't pick it up and you just see it for a little bit, because that was one of those things I noticed it like 10 seconds in while he's like analyzing the buffalo.
It's one of those.
And I'm like, oh,
It's
that
one
would
of
have been a
those.
cool thing to go back and look at, you know.
Right.
Just like we're
It's
saying, like on rewatches, noticing new things. But yeah, he just fucking analyzes it like he's in Red Dead Redemption, and
it's
inspecting an
it's one of
item.
it's one of those basically moments like you were saying where the film creators just don't trust the audience anymore. They just think that the audience is incredibly stupid and that they wouldn't notice or pick up on those kind of things, because that would have been one of the things I wouldn't have noticed right off the
Yeah,
first rip, is like the cigar near
yeah.
the
I like
buffalo.
barely noticed it, and then right as it clicked, they went into overshowing it. I was like, yeah, okay.
There's a lot of homages paid to in this movie too, which is cool to see. A lot of it is shoved in your face. There's a couple that I've noticed that
If it
weren't.
bleeds, we can kill it. That was
Yeah,
so
there's that
forced.
one. Yeah, there like
That
there's
was really forced
yeah.
because I don't think she ever even saw him bleed.
The one I didn't catch up on until
Him.
like I was like it was passing by me is when she's caught in the bog the first time. She gets covered in mud, and she climbs up and lays in front of that root ball. It's the same exact pose and everything as when Arnold crawls out of the like through the mud and lays up against the roots. The same root ball in the first movie when the predator walks up to him.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, they're both like kind of have their arms out a little bit, like they're just sitting up against this ball of roots, and they're both covered in mud. Like that was kind of a cool little scene that you have to pick up on between the two. But other
Yeah,
than
I
that, it
guess
was all
so.
just shoved in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That movie exhausted me. I I really liked The Predator, and then I went immediately into watching that film, and I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm on the other hand, like I didn't think it was a bad movie per se. I just think it was very
It's a bad Predator movie, I guess.
if you
yeah.
compare it to
I
the
go with
original
that.
Predator, it is an insane downgrade.
Yeah, it just sucks.
And
'Cause,
maybe
like, you guys were talking about how the cinematography was like good. I think it was it was a competently shot. It wasn't like so
they had some
stupid with
pretty
its
landscape
editing.
scenes.
But
Outside
yeah,
of
that's
that,
not the point. Imagine like, that's not the point to show the landscape. Like this is a hunting movie. Like imagine I kept thinking, what if this looked like The Revenant, like with that energy, that atmosphere, that grittiness. Like that
That
would have
would've
been
been pretty
so
cool, yeah.
cool. Like that's what I mean. Like they're not taking advantage of the time period. But
Yeah, they definitely could have changed a lot of things and it made it better. I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of something we suffer from with a lot of newer movies is just kind of cranking out whatever's gonna hit the like main viewer pretty quickly.
that's
Like I'm a
that's
pretty casual film goer myself, but like I just watch movies. But I think they could do a lot better and kind of do more in-depth stuff and more world building and really get into the weeds a little more with these things. They just don't really tear into it at all.
that's the case with a lot of not just films but media in general. The thing is like what I was saying earlier. A lot of these movies just want to appeal to the mass audience to make the most amount of money possible. It's a pure business decision, and they know what works, so they just go what works all the time, always. And you just have one too many hands in the cookie jar of like deciding, oh yeah, we're gonna go with this direction instead of whatever the original writer's decision was or whatever the director wants.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that kind of wraps up what I had for that one. To be honest with you, it was pretty much it just kind of takes cues from the first one and it follows
Mhm.
a very similar arc. May not hit the mark quite as well. I mean, it's basically just redoing it all over again at the end of the day. And that's just kind of like what sequels do. I mean, it's technically a prequel, but any follow up movies really, for the most part, are just going to be a copy and paste and change a couple things here and there to make it look a little different and see what sells. You know, like, I just feel like I wish they would do a little different, a little
Yeah.
more differently at least.
Or just
For
make
sure.
something new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
New IPs are cool.
Yeah, 100%. Not that I don't like sequels or reoccurring IPs every so often, but I do wish that
Predator has been done a lot too. Like yeah, like I think there's
Yeah.
like the Predator 2 that came out right after the first one. There's
Right.
Predators.
Predators
Then
that
there's
came out like mid 2000s. Then there's a 2018 Predator.
The Predator.
Then you have all the Alien
Alien
vs
versus
Predator
Predator.
movies.
Yeah.
Like it's been done a lot, and only a couple of them are actually any good. Like
Yep.
Yeah. Also, I just remembered, why does the fucking French trapper know Comanche? Like, why?
Yeah,
think
they
he's
never
just, like-
explained that.
That's
he just says he
not.
speaks a lot of languages, so maybe he's like an interpreter. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
like,
just
Why
kinda-
would he
that's
say
what I
he's
was just
got a
letting it
smart
slide.
tongue, and they imply that. But like, then that was common. Like most people
Yeah.
just know their own language, but there are some people who were savants and knew like other languages. But like, why would he know Comanche?
To be fair,
Like, how would he
Yeah.
even learn that? That's not like, oh, I can go and learn Greek or Latin or
Yeah, because
Spanish.
they weren't exactly talking with the Comanche people.
Yeah,
I mean, unless they were
just
just
like-
The
trying to
French-
interrogate them for some reason. I don't know why though.
the French did have more relationships with the Native Americans than the Americans did. And this is historical as well. It's part of the reason why we had the French-American War was the Native Americans chose the French to help fight against the Americans and promises that they'd be able to keep their land, which was never going to happen regardless. But they had a deeper relationship because of the fur trade. So it's not completely unreasonable or unrealistic to say that they would have had a translator amongst them, but you compare that with, or you take that alongside like them killing the buffalo and all this other stuff about what they're doing, and also capturing a Native American girl and like treating her really poorly. It doesn't blend well with the rest of that kind of theme, so it just kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's the other thing. It's just you start talking about like Native Americans in particular, and it's not like you're choosing a random tribe in the Amazon or something like that, or in Africa where it doesn't have as much relationship to like history in an American sense, in an American setting. And you just start having historical inaccuracies and problems because there's just no way, or really there's no effort taken to just do the research.
Yeah. Exactly. It's just people brainstorming. Oh, it'd be cool if it was in Native America.
That's what this film really feels like. Is just like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did Predator with Native Americans in the film?
It's basically
and then
becoming
that's how the
Assassin's
film
Creed.
happened.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, what time frame are we going to next?
Yeah, it didn't really
Predator
feel
in
like
Egypt. Oh wait,
didn't
that
feel
was
like a
Alien vs
thought-out
Predator. It
decision.
was in a pyramid.
Oh, really? I was actually I haven't seen any of those movies. I was gonna
Yeah, the first one
I was
takes place in
gonna
a
say
pyramid
that-
under Antarctica.
under Antarctica. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's a very strange premise. That movie would blow like any canon from any Predator movie. I think it just like erases it. It's so weird. I rewatched that a few months ago,
What the fuck?
just the first one, and I was like, wait, what's happening?
Yeah, I was because when Antonio kept saying I don't like the setting, I was like, my first thought was like Egypt would be cool, but then I was like, yeah, there's not really like it's the desert.
Anywhere to
There's
hide.
not places for him to hide stuff.
right.
Yeah, they're like in the pyramid and like the tombs and catacombs and stuff like that in the first Alien vs Predator. That's not a bad movie. I wouldn't go that far, but it's at least fun to watch.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of the other Predator films other than the first one and Prey, and
Yeah.
I watched those like literally one after the other just recently. So
Yeah.
Well, we can wrap this up.
right,
Actually,
sounds good to me.
because we were talking about the sequels, I was just clicking on the IMDb page of the 2010 one, and the cast is so weird. They got Danny Trejo, Walton Goggins, who's in like The Hateful Eight, Topher Grace, who's fucking Venom in Spider-Man 3, Adrian Brody, who's like a very serious good actor, Lawrence Fishburne, like that's such a, and then a bunch of other people. It's such a strange mix of people.
Okay, real quick, pull up like the critic score for or whatever for Predator versus Prey. I'm curious to see what.
I'll think I can do Prey if you want to do Predator.
Okay, look
You
up
want to do?
the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. So,
I'll go IMDb first. They have a 7.2 out of 10 with a Metascore of 71.
Okay, so Predator is 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb, and then Rotten Tomatoes is 80. 80 critic,
Actually,
87 audience.
you're gonna be blown away. Let's see. Well,
What
for
was
their
Prey?
the tomatometer on Rotten Tomatoes here has a 93%, and
For
then the audience
Prey?
score is 73%.
What the fuck are they smoking? Oh my god, I would think it's the opposite. Like the audience score that's more casual, just chilling watching it would like it more than critics. This should be like critically Oh, you know why? Because they're afraid of being non-PC and getting canceled
Right.
or something. Like we didn't even we talked about what was wrong with it, and nobody said anything that was cancelable. You know, like you can still criticize. Um, oh
Like
my
I
god.
have no issue with the protagonist being a woman. I have no issue with the Native American setting or anything like that.
Exactly.
It just
If they
wasn't
I
just
think
do
they
it
both
right.
would have been cool if they just did it right.
If anything,
I like the setting. They just fucking fucked it up.
I'm just more insulted that they went with Native Americans and didn't do any kind of like real research about it, or didn't
Yeah.
go full in on that concept in certain ways. And I don't know. I just thought it was kind of. I felt like it's more insulting to do it the other way around, to just kind of flop on that concept.
Yeah. Just people can't commit. All right. Well, that was fun. Corey, you got the recommendation for next episode?
I do. I've been looking for a reason to go back and rewatch one of my favorite movies of all time. That being Baby Driver.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
I'm excited for that. I've only seen it once and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that movie's awesome. So we can do that one.
Hell yeah.
I'll be going
And
into that film completely blind. By the way,
Oh,
I've
you haven't
not
seen it. Yeah, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, dude, you're gonna like that one.
It's a really good
All
one.
right, I definitely will have to check it out.
All right. Well, that's the end of the show. Check y'all out later. Goodbye.
See ya.
Later.
And we're back. We forgot something. We wanted to rate the films. So, Antonio, you want to start us off? Just score
Yeah.
out of 10?
I will do. All right, we're rating Predator first.
Yeah.
All right, Predator. I want to give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a solid film. I think that it is obviously a classic. I think anybody who enjoys films in general should just watch it. It's just a good film, solid film, awesome film.
I'll go next. Yeah, Predator. I was debating a 9, but I say 8 is pretty fair. Very solid, like you said, and yeah, it's surprising. It's not what you think. If you've just heard about it all your life, like I have, or like we have, yeah, you'll be pleasantly surprised. It's very well made and a classic for a reason.
Yeah, the original Predator. I'll be generous. I'll give it a 8.1.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You
No.
got the decimals
At the end of the day, like it's one of those classic movies. It's just a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's got a lot going on, and I think it'll keep anybody hooked anyway. It's one of those ones you just gotta see.
Yeah. Yeah, you go ahead and go first for Prey, so we don't steal all your thunder.
Oh man, okay. Prey. That was gonna be taking a little bit of undercut here. That's gonna go down. It's like a 6.5.
Yeah.
I think it's
It's a
not
tall
a bad movie. It's just it's not as good. It just didn't follow up, I guess, as quite as well, and kind of lacks some of the initial hit of the 1987 film. So that's all I have to say about that one.
Antonio?
For Prey, I give it a solid 5. It's not a bad movie, like you said. It really suffers when you compare it to the original Predator, but as a normal modern film, just like any other like modern adaptation or modern sequel to any of these other classics, it's a fine film. There's nothing really wrong with it or truly offensive about it. It's just not. There's a lot to criticize about it, obviously. And when you compare it to older films like Predator, it just doesn't stack up.
Yeah. I agree. I'd say if I was to compare it to the original, it'd be like a 4. But standalone, just by itself, I'd say a 5. Like, there's a lot of things to criticize. It was not enjoyable at times, enjoyable at other times. And we were talking off mic about just the lack of research that just would have made this movie better. But yeah, I'd say a solid 5. It's all right. All right. If anybody else has any final things to say, we'll be out for real this time.
Nope, I think I'm all good.
All right.
I'm good.
Catch you next time. Bye.